Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the December 6th meeting of the Barrington Planning Board. Start with a roll call for attendance.
Yellow here.
Jesse, you're here.
Alan present.
Nat present. And I believe we have Donna online.
Donna, are you online? I see a few phone numbers online. She may be. I thought she was going to be online, but I can wait a minute and see if she joins in, but
If she does, we will add Donna Musici.
okay.
Member participating. Review of minutes from the November 15th meeting. Mr. Allard so pointed out that there was a correction on line 45. It says supposed, it should say supposed. So that will be funded conservation. Any other corrections? Hearing none, look for a motion to approve the minutes from November 15th.
I think I'm not going to approve the 15th meeting minutes as amended.
Roll call vote.
Still aye?
Yes, you have.
Alan.
Now, aye. So would you like to give staff updates?
I just have a few updates for the board this evening. I'd like to have the board consider to move the work session meeting from December 20th at 6:30 p.m. to December 13th, which is next week at 6:30 p.m. This is to finalize our zoning amendments to make sure that make our timeline for proper notice for our first public hearing date. Because I know there were still some final touches we wanted to discuss. So so that's why I would like to see if the board would entertain moving the date up.
Make a motion to move the work session from December 20th to December 13th at 6:30.
A second.
Very interesting. Roll call vote.
Still aye? Jeffy, aye. Alan, aye.
Now, aye.
The second item, just wanted to let everybody know and everybody here in the audience know that we're having our master plan community forum this Saturday, December 10th from 8:30 a.m. The program will start at 9 till noon. It's for our master plan chapter updates for our land use chapters and our transportation chapters, and it'll be located at the ECLC because we expect a larger turnout that could possibly larger space there for their workshop. It's with our SRPC. It's also on our website for those of anybody listening in that would like to get more details on that. Item number C, there was discussion at a previous planning board meeting about doing a developing a zoning ordinance wetlands conservation district and meeting to form a subcommittee of some planning board members with the conservation members and an applicant, or not applicant, excuse me, a consultant. We're talking about discussing to mimic after the Kingston. I do have one volunteer already from the planning board, which is John. Hope that's okay. If there's anybody else that's interested, please let me know. I'll let you mull it over. I won't put anybody on the spot, but we will try to meet next week to at least kind of kick off a meeting to have the consultant look at what is desired to be done. So that's more of a notice. Not unless anybody wants to volunteer. Nope. Thank you.
Do we have a time?
Or potentially next Thursday, because I'll have to properly advertise it. So that's why I was looking to hope get an answer tonight. Otherwise, if you're okay with John representing as the planning board member, I guess we can go with that as too. I just want to give everybody the opportunity in case they were not aware. I know I sent out a lot of emails, but
Thursday evening.
Thursday during I think it was Thursday morning or Thursday afternoon. Or we can always accommodate another time if that doesn't work for folks.
Got that 4-letter word working.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Where are we at here? Action items number 5. So the first public hearing for the zoning amendments would be January 3rd. Is that correct?
That's what we're proposing, to kick off our first public hearings. If there's no comments at the public hearing, we can be done, but I also wanted to give, other alternate dates in case we need to have more than one public hearing. And then, in case of inclement weather, we're anticipating holding the day after, just to try to keep timing on, but, if there's a blizzard or something, we can discuss that then, but.
You can't have your third public hearing on January 24th. They all need to be at least 14 days apart.
They need to be 14, but, okay, so the second one could be the 24th, is what you're
The
saying?
second one could be,
Oh.
the second one
second
could be
one,
the 17th, but if you have a third one, it can't be the 17th. It would need to be the 31st.
Okay,
Actually, the first, right? Okay.
Yeah, the first.
Yeah, it would have to be February 1st.
we may not need subsequent meetings, but it's just, but we can kind of keep on schedule.
Do you know when your
schedule?
do you know when your deliberative session is?
I know it's February 4th. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, you can't have a hearing.
Yeah, I didn't think.
You better get done in 2 hearings.
Okay.
Okay.
For delayed 2 hearings.
Action items continued from November 1st. We have application 234-77-TC-22.
Do they need a vote on those dates? Okay.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Christian Smith. I'm an engineer with Wheels Associates. Paul could not be with us tonight. He's got a prior engagement. However, I will be taking his place and walking you through the project as it stands. I presume everybody's had opportunity to review our last response memo to CMA as well as the plan set. They have issued a third comment letter that is pretty scant. So I can walk through that very quickly if it pleases the chair. So we start off with the existing conditions plan. We did indeed gray shade the existing conditions on the plans. However, they feel that they're still difficult to read, so I can touch base with Josh and find out what he wants to see there. I didn't have any problems with the plan, I did not notice. His second comment under 3511 parentheses 2 is specific to the fire department circulation plan. And that was actually a plan that we had produced prior to the last submittal. So I'm not sure if they have just forgotten that we put that in there, but the board is in receipt and CMA is in receipt of both a fire department vehicle, travel or circulation plan through the property. Basically goes up into the turnout that we provided and exits the property. And the second one was specifically for the existing commercial and residential parking areas, as was requested by them. So I think we are all set on that, but again, I haven't had opportunity to speak with Josh.
Right, I know the last time, the path of travel and the roadway was different on the property, so I'm assuming that's probably why it got called back out.
I think we did one with the new road or new driveway access.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yep.
So I did discuss with CMA about what perhaps they're looking for. They weren't clarify if the circulation plan was done by a regular vehicle or it would be done with the fire. I know you guys probably don't have a fire truck to do that,
Right,
but so I
right.
think that's what their issue is. I asked the fire chief and he said, as long as he can get his trucks in, he didn't see an issue with it, but they wanted an updated.
Yeah, and I
plan,
believe that
so.
Paul went over that with Chief Walker, and if what CMA is looking for is the fire trucks pulling into those smaller parking areas, the chief indicates they are not going to do that. Chief Walker isn't with us tonight, is he? No. they're gonna go in, stop right near where they hook up the pumper to, the cistern and probably leg the hose up that little stretch of hill. But the circulation of the vehicle getting in and out of the proposed turnaround up by what we call Unit 6, that plan has been prepared. And I will double check, Mr. Chairman, certainly if we had not updated that, but I really think we have. That's very easy to do. On to the next, and largely these final comments, all four of them, are all specific to the same thing, and that is the intersection and stopping site distance plan. And obviously the DOT permit is required. We are aware of that, the board's aware of that. And we were able to receive the needed roadway detail topography from the surveyor this past Friday, and we're able to prepare and submit a site distance plan yesterday, which I think Vanessa has copied and put in your packets. I can put it up on the screen if you would prefer. I do have everything on a stick drive here.
Yeah, so, just to address the board, it's the paper that's loose leaf, that I left on the station for you. The site distance.
And you can see on that, we have in excess of 400 feet in both directions, for both stopping site distance as well as intersection site distance. And we did add a note to that plan specific to any clearing that may need to be done within DOT's right of way to clear out shrubs that may impede site distance. And, you know, when we worked through the driveway access permit with DOT, I'm sure they will evaluate that and tell us what they want taken down. And the applicant is certainly willing to do that. So that is.
Mr. Chairman, if I
Yeah.
just a quick comment for the board, and I've already discussed it with the applicant as well. For you that may already know this, just to put it out there that since this is off a state road, the reason for the comments from CMA is because they're not meeting the regulations. However, I feel like this is a regulation change that maybe we should look at in the future because it's a state road. We can't enforce things that are on a state road. So, thank you.
The additional items that the applicant or the board has for questions, comments, concerns.
We get an illumination plan previously, or did we not never receive that?
We waived that.
We waived that?
Mhm.
What about the building random sign these?
Yes, those were submitted early on.
Those,
I think you're gonna do. Fronts inside. Front side and rear view. I see the back.
the sides were in the
Original package.
I
package.
believe that's correct, yeah. Yeah, because he had some that were kind of renderings. And you could see both the front and the side, and then the back and the other side, I believe, at some point.
What we have now is. Move to the back. Right, to the left side.
Yeah.
You got these.
Question of the wetland buffer impact, so you're
Yes.
listed at 35%
Correct.
by moving the road, which if we did, we should above the one kind of fund, so.
Yeah.
It's finally able to get the grade,
Yes.
so you wanna take the set, and you wanna wait on that.
I understood from the board last time I spoke on that issue that the waiver wouldn't be required because it is a private drive.
Oh, okay.
It's the one that came up today.
Oh,
And I see that the, fire retention pond one is really.
Yes.
You're able to take a swale and take anything off that road to unit 4, 5, and 6.
Correct.
Directly going across the road to the entire buffer.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, the reconfiguration of the road, you know, as you mentioned, cut down that impact of the buffer significantly and allowed for more capture of storm.
Yeah. It looks like the leaching fields increased in size. in the First configuration.
Yeah, well, in the initial, we had just some blocks for each of those locations, then we had an overall reserve area.
These are actually.
And CMA asked us to go actually through and size them based on the test pit data and the percolation test data, which is what you see in today's plans.
But getting back to the turnaround for the fire truck, it looks like that really hasn't changed in this iteration.
It has not.
Yeah.
It has not.
The question, maybe it's Vanessa, the application Secretary of State, I didn't really understand that from you.
So that has to do with an assessing question. It's just that, if they were gonna do, they see it as units, if they're gonna, as far as like ownership goes, it's not necessarily something that planning board has to look at, but it's looked at through 911 mapping or 911 or whatever, about addressing specifically if they're gonna do the what as one unit or like doing A and B. I think Paul is trying to finalize what he's going to do, but since it's over a number of units, he has to get a report done for that. It's like an assessing.
Yeah, and Ron, I
Everything.
can just elaborate on that a little bit.
Thank
So for subdivisions, 15 lots or greater require registration with the AG. And for condominiums, which is what this proposal is, it's 10 units or greater. So if he goes with having the small commercial space on the bottom floor and the residence as two different units, we end up with 12. So that would trigger AG filing.
Thank you.
How would you do it otherwise? Just the sale commercial.
Well, that, yeah, I mean, you know, the likelihood is whomever occupies these homes
Right.
is going to be using the office space downstairs. But, you know, he's got to leave himself open for the possibility that that doesn't happen.
Questions, comments, concerns? I don't think we have anything else, so this.
No, I guess the only decision that likely needs to be made before we move forward is, as Vanessa stated in staff comments. So we have provided the plan, which it seems to me, based on the writing of CMA's comments, that's what they were looking for, was that to be submitted. But I have prepared a waiver request if the board thinks that is the better way to go or the cleaner way to go for both of the site distance sections of the code. So if you guys are comfortable that the plan is in and we do not need the waiver, that's perfectly fine, but I do have waiver requests in the event that you decide otherwise.
Does the board have a preference on it? I mean,
If we're gonna defer to the state, you know, so
it's gonna be a condition of approval per state DOT permit.
It's a waiver from our regulations is why we're asking for, even though it doesn't necessarily apply to this project.
we had two other waiver requests.
Aside from the ones that, yes. Right, the screening and I believe the full traffic analysis, both of those have been submitted and are pending. They just haven't been acted on yet.
Anything else?
From here.
So getting waivers or are we not getting waivers?
Well, it said, additional waivers to be read into the record. Page 5.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
You may.
The additional waivers were read into record on the staff report. Those two have been submitted prior, and I added them to your packet just in case you didn't have them with you. They had been submitted prior. They just weren't read into record because of the continuances and wanting to get the finalized plans. The first waiver for the screening, we all wanted to wait on that to see what for the site walk. when you guys did the site walk, that's why I didn't approve that one initially. And then the DOT is, I would say, similar to the site distance because we require a traffic study, but since it's a state road, they still have to prepare one for the state. So it's just a waiver from our regulations. And so I'd ask the applicant to prepare for the next two on the Sevenport C and D for the site distances, because that's following the same process, even though it's on a state road. It's a waiver from our regulations. But he has submitted a map, the plan for the site distance, but it has not yet been reviewed by CMA. And if you would like to grade the waivers, he has the waivers to submit.
That as well.
We'll go the waiver route.
That way it's just official for the record.
If I go from the bottom to the top, we'll need at the end. I did do a separate request for both of these sections. Would
I
you
don't.
care for them?
Mr. Chairman, may I make a comment about the architectural drawings?
Yeah.
In reference to Ron's question. I looked through I know that they had submitted ones before, but it was like to disregard those because they were going to submit new drawings. I tried looking online where Barbara tries to keep them all. I'm not saying that the applicant did not provide them, but we don't have the updated record for it. So if you wanted to add that to the conditional approval, that they give us all those if you've already have them, just for our file.
So, rendering. Yep.
Mhm. It just has the ones that were recently submitted on here. Oh, wait, and maybe I misspoke, right, Missy?
Waiver for 3.5.10. Back 10. I'm unclear why you're asking for a waiver on that. Could you explain that to me?
Why we're requesting the waiver? Simply because the project is set so far off the road and there's so much existing vegetation that will remain between the project and the parking areas. It doesn't seem that screening is necessary. And I think that was part of the, I was not in attendance, but I think that was part of the discussion, part of the reason for the site walk with the Conservation Commission as well. Just to review that.
I think one of the concerns was screening and the traffic pattern and how it flowed up through there to the residents. And the traffic pattern piece, I think, has been largely addressed.
Right.
I guess my question really is, only 3.5.10 is just give us a plan. Doesn't necessarily say what steps are on the plan. So, I think it asks for a plan. Doesn't say what the plan has to be necessarily. I don't know if the hardship is even giving us a plan. So I guess that's where I'm kind of. You can satisfy the requirement just if I get the plan. And not need with it.
And I believe it's the applicant's desire to, as he stated in the waiver request, simply do, minimal by design, low maintenance, shrubs, et cetera. And I think he's just trying not, because specifically for the screen,
Yeah.
The screening is gonna take place from the existing, older vegetation, trees, et cetera, that exist on the site. And I don't think he intends to, or would prefer not to do any planting for screening. And that's where we ended up with the waiver.
Yes, like I say, just ask for a plan. And it doesn't say the plan has to be this or that, it just says give a plan. And you're asking for a waiver to give a plan.
Right, prefer not to do, it's not a hardship.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, no, the hardship is, the expense of doing screening plantings when you've got a huge natural screening vegetative cover between the roadway and the project itself.
but I think we're not asking that, we're asking you to find a sheet of the landscaping plan, whatever you propose.
You
And,
just say it's existing green space is adequately.
you know, what I mean, the
Well-
requirements for a plan.
I guess in that event, then we could look at our site plan as the plan because it depicts the edge of proposed cutting.
Well, it's supposed to be a landscaping sheet, I guess, and then what's on that sheet can be discussed, but to say I don't want to do a sheet, I think is. I'm having trouble with that. Give me whatever. It's Christmas time.
Yes, the Christmas spirit.
All right. Some detail on it.
Make sure you include that in your findings of fact.
Christmas.
That's Christmas.
Yeah.
And there's like.
Sorry, I'm just kind of trying to make sure like the mom's warning with it. You talk about that it's, the intent is this is becomes the screening plan in essence, but not everything up there has all been cut or cleared at this point.
Correct.
So where becomes the vegetative buffer around that, because are we just going by the setback then?
Well, it would be essentially the limits of grading. They're not gonna clear beyond that and all of that vegetation. I mean, of course, you'll be able to see up the road, but you're not gonna landscape to screen that view anyways.
Yeah.
It'd be virtually impossible. But with specific regard to the parking areas, that's really gonna be hidden by the existing tree cover and brush that's in there.
I mean, I guess the only place I would have any heartburn would be for the existing neighbor. That it would be over on the left-hand side, making sure there was adequate screening for them, since there is really no other neighbor that would be impacted.
Absolutely, and with the relocation of that drive aisle that used to go through there, we've changed not only that, there's a significant buffer of trees between, excuse me, their property and the limited grading, as well as the projection of headlights that was a concern has basically been eliminated by that redesign as well.
I agree, it's definitely better, I don't know exactly what that it's gonna look like down through there. Because it does minimize, you have minimized the impact in the wetlands area as
In the
well.
buffer zone, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's gonna be a significant improvement. Okay. Any other comments from the board? Comments from the applicant?
Okay.
This time I would open public comment. That way, because you're looking for an improvement this evening, correct?
We would hope so, yes.
I'll open public comment then. If we could actually just speak up a little bit so that the people online can
Sue Morrison, 687 Franklin Groups. I'm sorry, can you just go over the changes to the layout of things perhaps? Can you reduce? I haven't seen it.
Can I show her the?
Yeah. Place it.
The road comes up here. Up here. People came out there, to the house.
Yeah.
So remove the road.
Just
Straight up.
Yeah.
And it's road here, but it only has to go to the east. And then you turn. And the gas out, so you should not be able to get around the sides.
I would collaborate.
So now if you can go straight out.
Yeah. And most of the people think it's for the residents. And then the commercial, see,
You put in the requirement for some rules that intersection. Yeah, just to be sure.
Side elevation.
Yeah, sorry, just all the different.
Goes down. When you're back out. you go down.
Thank you.
Okay.
Does that help answer your question?
Yes, they do.
Any other public comments?
Mr. Chairman, there's some folks online. Let me see. Oh, I'm sorry.
Hi, my name is Michael Ross. I live at 227 Malago. I don't have a lot of input on what's going on. I missed the last meeting and stuff, but my land is high and this is going down below where I am now. I'm just,
Michael,
what did you say? This?
This is a different one.
it's a different one.
Oh,
Okay, this is not one nine.
oh, I'm sorry. So my bad.
Never mind.
Coming up. Okay.
Mutual attractions.
Oh, I'm sorry.
There, folks.
There's people online, anybody online that would like to speak for or against, this application, if you could raise your hand, if you, cannot unmute yourself or would like me to unmute for you. I currently do not see anybody raising their hand or trying to unmute themselves for this application.
Hearing none, at this time I'll close public comment. There's somebody who would like to make a motion.
We need more.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Waivers?
Oh,
Are you want to do the waivers or the 9.6?
Yes.
Which would you like to go first?
Let's start with the 9.6 and then go through the waivers.
Okay. Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
That's-
I meant-
Sorry,
I
Mr.
think you have to add.
9.6 that you're requesting.
Yeah, so we have amended that application with the reconfiguration of the road down to 3,600 square feet from 5,570 square feet. The driveway access is constructed or is proposed to be constructed now directly up the hill as opposed to off to the left where we had the 5,570 square feet. And that, I believe, was reviewed by the Conservation Commission during the, or some of the commissioners at least during the site walk. And I think you'll find in the staff comments that the chairman felt that it was a much better configuration and that they would support the application.
Commentary, would you like to move forward? I know the drainage looks much better on it, doesn't that everything kind of.
Correct, it's all, yes, it's all taken down to that larger pond in the front.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, do you want him to read each one of these, how it applies to the project, the criteria?
Five items. Yes, if you might please go through your.
Sure, number one, only driveway access will be constructed, through this area. Drainage is engineered now to move away from the wetland area down into the bioretention pond. And the design would be would be roughly the same regardless, but with that relocation of the access in, we were able to reduce down our buffer impacts, save some clearing that would have been necessary for the side slope grading. Number two, this really, to get these in there, it is basically the only feasible place to put the homes and the businesses. And we have done everything that we can, in my opinion, to move unit 6 back a little bit, reconfigure the driveway, minimize the impacts. Number 3.
I do have more questions.
Yes, go.
Was there any thought as to considering reducing the yield by 1 unit? Then you can.
Well, not by me. I don't get to make such decisions. I think that it fits in there. I mean, we've got the buffer impact down now to 3,600 square feet, which is very small. And as you say, we're collecting all the runoff from that side slope. So I think it's reasonable. We did slide unit 6 up with the revision of the driveway entrance again to move as much of that side slope grading out of the buffer as we possibly could. Good. Or did I answer your question at least?
It answers it. It doesn't compel hardship. That's a question, I guess, for most.
The proposed structure or use must be set back as far as possible from the delineated edge of the wetland or surface water. And that is absolutely the case. I mean, we've pulled that back as far as we possibly can. Appropriate erosion control measures must be in place prior to and during construction. That is depicted on the plan, and anywhere where we are within 50 feet of the wetland, we do propose a double row of erosion controls, be it silt fence or the erosion control berms. That's kind of an alteration of terrain standard with Department of Environmental Services now. And then 5, any buffer to this, any disturbance to the surrounding buffer must be repaired and restored. You will note that as the indication. I mean, it is to be loamed and seeded and stabilized as soon as the finished grading is complete. So,
There's one more.
one more. All available mitigation measures to address changes in water quality and quantity must be implemented. And I think I've already addressed that with the collection of the stormwater runoff and conveying that to the bioretention treatment area.
The filtration analysis. Looking for a motion to either approve or reject the 9.6.
I'll make that motion. Approve.
I'll second. Roll call vote.
Driscoll, aye.
Kathy Ellen.
That's your eye.
Alan, right?
Nap aye. Nine six. The next set of waivers. We would have the 3.510. The 4.14, the 4.7. 4.6.
Mr. Chairman, would you like me to read each, to vote on each, or do you want to vote individually on each?
Yes, I believe we should.
Okay.
Read
I'm ready if you want me to. Okay. We'll address the first additional waiver. The requirement for landscaping and screening in Article 3, Section 3.5.10 of the Site Plan Review Regulations. Not granting the waiver would pose an unnecessary hardship to the applicant, and granting the waiver not be contrary to the spirit and intent of regulations.
I'll second.
Second one.
Business second motion to waive 3.5.10 or 3.5.10. As posing not granting the waiver would pose an unnecessary hardship to the applicant. And doing so is not contrary to the spirit and intent of the regulation.
Because.
I don't remember.
All right, we're gonna work on finding facts.
This the landscape conditions.
That'll work.
Yeah, 4 hours sleep.
I know.
That's right.
So we have a motion, a second, roll call vote.
Just collect.
Kathy Elway.
Trustee Roy?
We don't know it now, this one.
Nap aye. It's the list.
The next waiver to be read into record is the requirement for a full traffic impact analysis per section 4.14 of the site plan review regulations. A full study will be prepared for NHDOT driveway permit and will be submitted to the board. Not granting the waiver would pose an unnecessary hardship to the applicant, and granting the waiver would not be contrary to the spirit and intent of regulations.
We make a motion to grant the waiver from section 4.124. Since it will be a condition of approval that we have the NHDOT approved driveway permit and information on file, and not granting the waiver otherwise posing unnecessary hardship to the applicant. And what was the second part of that? The intent.
Spirit and intent.
I got the
It's
easy
the
part
cheat,
wrong.
well, the cheat sheet's right here.
Second that. Roll call.
Just collect.
Kathy Elway.
Trustee Roy?
Aye.
Nap aye. Sweet.
The next waiver is a requirement for intersection site distance to be shown on the plan in Article 4, Section 4.8.6 of the site plan review regulations. Not granting the waiver would pose an unnecessary hardship to the applicant. Granting the waiver would not be contrary to the spirit and intent of the regulations.
Okay, I'll make a motion. Approve, item number C, requirement for intersection site distance to be shown on the plan in Article 4, Section 4.8.6 of the site plan review regulation. Not granting the waiver would pose unnecessary hardship to the applicant. Granting the waiver would not be contrary to the spirit and intent of the regulations. The reason being, DOT will take care of this. Mr. Lai?
Kathy Elway.
Trustee Roy? Alan, nap aye. And the last.
The requirement for intersection stopping site distance to be shown in the plan in Article 4, Section 4.8.7 of the site plan review regulations. Not granting the waiver would pose unnecessary hardship to the applicant, and granting the waiver would not be contrary to the spirit and intention of the regulation.
Make a motion to approve, waiving Article 4, Section 4.8.7, stopping site distance. Since this again will be a condition of approval with their state DOT driveway permit, and not granting the waiver would pose the unnecessary hardship to the applicant. Or granting the waiver is not contrary to the spirit and intent of our regulation.
Second.
Mr. Lai?
Kathy Elway.
Trustee Roy?
Aye.
Nap aye. We have a motion to approve the application. As.
We've already accepted it as
right,
complete previously.
We've.
No, no
Yeah,
subdivision,
conditions.
conditionally approved, no subdivision.
Yes, thank you.
I can read all through these, or if anybody, if the board wants to have any additional discussion, if you want to take a moment to review it,
I think we've added we added.
The architectural drawings.
Architectural drawings with side views.
Mhm.
We have in the conditions, I believe. The DOT. Driveway permit approval as well as documentation for the waivers requested.
Mhm.
Don't think there's going to be an HDOT traffic analysis. That's setbacks. I think that is everything. Is there anything else that we're missing? That anyone else can think of? And the HOA condo bylaws are in there, noted in here to be approved by the town attorney.
Mhm.
I don't have anything else that I can think of that. I'm not hearing anything else from anyone else on the board, so.
Take it away. Okay. The board this evening conditionally approves your application. Let me start from here. The application has met all the town ordinances and regulations of the town of Barrington. All the precedent conditions below must be met by the applicant at the expense of the applicant prior to the plans being certified by the planning board. Certification of the plan is required prior to commencement of any site work or recording of any plans. Once these precedent conditions are met, the plans are certified and approval is considered final. Please note, if all the precedent conditions are not met within 12 calendar months of the day, that is to December 6th, I apologize, it's to say 2023. Board's approval will have considered a lapse unless a mutually agreeable extension has been granted by the board.
Should say 2022. If all conditions precedent are not met, the December 6th, 2022 approval will be considered to have lapsed.
Oh, you're correct. As like. The condition precedents are as follows. Add to the following plan notes at the September 6th, 2022 planning board meeting, the board approved the waivers for the requirement of illumination plan in Article 3, Section 3.8, illumination plans of the site plan review regulations. The requirement for landscaping and parking lots in Article 4, Section 4.97, parentheses 4, internal shade trees of the site plan review regulations. Number 3, the requirement for landscaping parking lots in Article 4, Section 4.97, parentheses 5, perimeter shade trees of the site plan review regulations. At the December 6th planning board meeting of 2022, a board approved waivers for the requirement for landscaping and screening Article 3, Section 3.5.10 of the site plan review regulations. The requirement for a full traffic impact analysis per Section 4.14 of the site plan review regulations. The requirement for intersection site distance to be shown on the plan in Article 4, Section 4.86 of the site plan review regulations. I will also need to add the notice of decision. The requirement for intersection stopping site distance to be shown on the plan in Article 4, Section 4.8.7 of the site plan review regulations. I don't know if the board discussed, but the December 6th, 2022 planning board meeting, the board approved the installation of a 15,000 gallon cistern for the project for the town of Barrington's fire chief. Add the following to the plan: a 3.6 special permit approved for construction and wetland buffer for impact size of 3,600 square feet. NHDOT driveway access permit approval number. NHDES septic approval number. NHDES Wetlands Bureau approval number, owner's signature, wetland scientist signature, professional surveyor signature, final numbering of the 6 mixed-use detached structures consisting of 6 single-family homes with 6 commercial spaces, NHDOT traffic analysis to be submitted to the land use office prior to the board, planning board chair signing on final plans. The NHDOT driveway permitted plans, including line of sight, and I'm adding and stopping distance, to be submitted to the land use office prior to the planning board chair signature on final plans. to include a circulation plan for the interior of the lot showing provisions for both auto and pedestrian circulation. The applicant shows circulation patterns for the 4 parking areas, however, fire department vehicle access not shown. Applicant should coordinate fire department access and vehicle turning motion requirements. Circulation plan should be included in the final drawing set. At the final submitting any or all outstanding comments, the applicant for site plan review and subdivision regulations shall be addressed. Any outstanding fees should be paid to the town. The HOA condo bylaw documents to be approved by town attorney and to reference maintenance operating the stormwater operation. Side elevations to be included. Actually, I put all architectural renderings to be submitted to make sure we have a full set. Prior to obtaining board signature, the applicant shall submit 2 full-size copies of the plans, one 11x17 copy, and a PDF-A file format with supporting documents as required in Article 3 of the Barrington Site Plan Review Regulations, with a letter explaining how the applicant addressed the conditions of approval to land use office. The planning board chair shall sign and date plans meeting all the conditions of approval. The board shall endorse 2 full-size paper copies of the site plans for the records and one 11x17 copy in PDF-A file format for the case file folder. For the general and subsequent conditions, yes.
I just wanted to ask, did you have 4 items under conditions precedent? I heard 3, 5, 10, 4.14, 4.8.6, did we have 4.8.7?
Yes, I read the one that you all approved here. I just did not write it on there. But yes, I did read that as part of it.
I just didn't, sorry.
That's okay.
It's the architecturals within the side.
I put all architectural renderings to be submitted to include site
Thank you.
elevation.
That's the issue we're reading.
That's okay. Sorry for mumbling by now. I apologize. General and subsequent conditions, a 15,000 gallon cistern installed and operational prior to framing permit. Street view signage shall be 911 compliant and approved by the town of Barrington. No parking signage in and along fire department turnaround areas. And where there is no active substantial work required under this approval has commenced upon the site within 2 years from the date the plan is signed, this approval shall expire. An extension not to exceed 1 year may be granted by majority vote of the board so long as it applied for at least 30 days prior to the expiration date. The board may grant only one such extension for any proposed site plan. All other plans must be submitted to the board for review to ensure compliance with these and other town ordinances. Active and substantial work is defined in this section as being the expenditure of at least 25% of the infrastructure improvements required on this approval. Infrastructure shall mean in this instance the construction of roads, storm drains, and improvements indicated on the site plan, RSA 674-39. Almost done. Lastly, the current use subject property portion of it is presently in current use. The applicant must provide town Barrington assessing department current use map and or other items to ensure requirements of RSA 79A and the New Hampshire Department of Revenue Administration rules are satisfied.
Did you go?
Final piece. All right, we'll vote to approve as read for the town plan.
Mr. Lund,
Yeah.
Jesse,
Alan, I.
Nap on. Congratulations and best of luck.
thank you very much.
No. I was watching these.
Did you need to make a motion to approve it?
Should have, but didn't.
To have back and correct it.
Yes, please.
So, motion to approve
I'll second it.
as
Thank you.
read into record by detailed plan.
Thank you.
Seconded by
Application, the 234-77-TC-22-F. The other one?
that's the one.
Okay.
Thank you.
You got a roll call?
Does everyone hold up to the current roll call?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the list. 260-13 and 14-22. Slash LL and then Christine and Richard. Richard. There's Lisa. There's Lisa.
I'll go get it. I'll be right back.
Brand new, you got a brand new.
I do, Brian.
No. I don't see the green out on the floor.
Waiting for me, so he's on the second. She's secretary as well, right? Well, yeah, it's all recorded and usually, and that's how they actually go back to. Decipher. Just have cassette players and we ran out the whole. It's nice having it all recorded because you can go back and see what was actually said versus being something next stage was said. We should have done it 40 years ago. Is that the thing? Cassettes. I don't know if the board has for plans or not, but I got full size plans as well, so that was covered just in case. I'm fine with it.
Higher, lower?
Right.
Okay.
We don't need board, and Bill Reynolds, and I work for the North Planning Association, so we represent 16 Wayne Richard, line investment and subdivision. Wayne Richard, in October, last October, November, I was here, we got continued, we accepted our application, we got continued. And the issue was the 1981 subdivision plan. So I'm not quite sure how you want to handle that part, but I think that's what to address. I know that there's different opinions now that we had from before about the legality of the subdivision that was trying to put those conditions on the plan.
Could we have a little more volume? I don't know if that-
thank you.
it can hear anything.
We have speakers, guys. So, we're here to, what we have done is we've been able to get a hold of the original owner of the subdivision, Dan Hertel. Yeah, a letter that we got a hold of him, a couple copies here.
He just suggested at that point to get a lawyer to write up a letter that you would sign and send back to look legitimate to you both. So he was the original owner of the 10 lot subdivision.
We still being here. So you could go to the podium.
So I guess Vanessa has reached out to the Municipal Association for their advice on what should be done about the situation, and
their response was that they've run into this situation many times, and that this was commonplace back then to the use of growth control, their own way to do growth control. And that if it can meet current zoning, then it should be allowed to be subdivided. I don't want to speak for you, but I think, I saw notes in here that see, your council has also said that.
No, no, I didn't say that.
I've got some, again, I don't know exactly what you said, but in the minutes that this application staff has been advised by the town attorneys for the applicant to ask the board to rescind conditions and covenants that were placed by the then planning board on the 1981 subdivision plan. So that's where we are.
So I went back and reviewed the planning board meeting minutes, and what caught my attention is everybody is focused on the following conditions will be recorded on the plan section down below. But what nobody seemed to be looking at is up above in paragraph 2 or 3, I guess it technically would be. It says Peters reviewed what has been discussed at the preliminary with Hurdle. And then the very next sentences, it said had been agreed by both for no open space, no further subdivision of the lots, while the number of transfers per year was still open for discussion. So it reads as though they exchanged the idea of creating open space in the subdivision for the fact that the lot would not be further subdivided. So you have a condition that was put on there as to why it wouldn't be subdivided any further, that would, I'm assuming, based on the time, was a zoning condition.
That's kind of the question, was it a zoning? Speaking to Van Hertel, he said he does that quite often, these subdivisions, and he wasn't clear on his memory of the whole thing, but he did say to me during the phone conversation, and he also put his phone number on there if there were questions. He just said that he didn't think anything done that many years ago would still exist today. That was, how long does it last? It's not infinite. I mean, someday somebody's going to challenge it, and I guess that's where we're at.
Conditions of approval are forever.
Right. They're forever. Wish I could come back 100 years.
So I guess I'm confused that I have here that says staff has been advised by the town attorney for the applicant to ask the board to rescind conditions. Is that correct?
Yes, but you have the burden of demonstrating why those conditions should be rescinded.
Right. In last meeting, you said try to find something, and there's just not much available because of the timeline. I mean, I was lucky to get a hold of Van. He actually has a home in Florida, and I called him a week before. So we mailed the letters back and forth, and really that's all I could come up with. I mean, it's quite old.
And this isn't your fault, but
Right.
I mean, it does appear that condition of approval was not imposed ad hoc. It was imposed
Right.
by the agreement of the parties so that the developer did not have to create an open space parcel.
Right.
And I don't know that anything has changed such that that's worth rescinding at this point, but that's not my call. That's their call.
Well, I guess we're just asking, cost money every time we.
Well, I think, the suggestion before was that maybe the board was pushing somebody into this inappropriately, and I think there's no demonstration that's the case. There could have been abutters that had concerns, and this could have been offered up to satisfy abutters. The board, it doesn't, we don't, if things are offered beyond what the requirements, the ordinances require, the board is certainly within the, can appropriately accept those. And I think, was this beyond what was maybe required? Possibly, but it was, a deal's a deal. You know, it was offered and it was accepted if they came in condition. So to me, 40 plus years later to say, you know, I'm not happy with the deal we made 40 plus years ago.
Right.
Can we change it? I think that's a tough call. That's a tough ask.
I guess at this point, we're just asking if that, I guess there could be some sort of vote on it so that we're both done with it at that point.
So you'll know.
Yes. It would be nice.
The important thing is, it's not just 4 lots. This is all 10 lots.
Right.
It is
Maybe
all 10.
recorded on the deed.
The deeds weren't recorded properly. I understand
Yeah.
that part of it.
But according to the planning board minutes, they were saying in exchange for the open space
Right,
and the larger lots.
right. So all the lots have the same restriction, they just don't have it on their deed.
That's why I would look at the burden is to be to prove that there was no open space requirement on a subdivision back in 1981.
Or to me also, if the board did something inappropriate,
Right.
you know, if you offer something that's not required and the board accepts it, nothing wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with that.
And so walking in, was there a requirement to offer this much? No, but it was offered, it was accepted.
Right.
So,
I guess you'd like to have, see it going forward.
Yeah.
This time I'll open public comment. Or we would proceed on our.
Thank you. My name is Chris Carr, and I own property on Kenmark Lane. I mentioned in the the November meeting, this request is not just about a lot line adjustment or a subdivision. It is a proposal to redefine the Hemlock Lane community. This proposal, although it states that it's on, not just Hemlock, but that's really what it affects, Hemlock Lane. Mr. Richards signed a legally binding contract for lot 13 in March 1982. That included the restriction that he could not subdivide his property. Due diligence on his part would also have indicated the same restriction existed for lot 14 from December 1981. I'm an original Northern Land Traders buyer from 1981, as is Mr. Richard. We were not coerced or forced into buying this land. The restrictions were clearly stated and visible to all parties. This board is being asked to nullify existing legal deed restrictions simply for the convenience of a property owner. If this is approved, what effect will this have on all other legal deeds restrictions in Barrington? I expect this planning board and the town of Barrington to enforce the agreed upon contractual deed restrictions and deny the subdivision. Thank you.
Any other public comments?
Just to let you know, there is somebody online
Somebody
too.
online.
I just don't want to forget that they're there.
Dave Whitten, I live across the street, there's lots being developed. Thanks for the compliment for, maintenance, it's been many years taking care of that, and, not easy, but just want to ask the board, if you approve this, does that mean all the subdivisions are approved for subdivision, all the properties in this subdivision are approved, because they're setting a precedent here? So, just want to ask you that,
I think it would remove the condition of approval on all 10 lots.
including the ones that Mr. Carr just mentioned.
Yeah.
So you would add maybe a dozen houses to this road. That's all I'm saying. Okay, thanks. I told Mr. Richard I wouldn't speak against him, but I didn't. He would ask me to write a letter. I said I wouldn't, and I didn't approve this, but I'm not going to speak against it. Thank you.
Before we go online, is there anybody else in the audience that would like to speak for or against this before we go online? Thank you.
Hi, Barb Presby, I live at 352 Hemlock. I'm not concerned about one exception. I am concerned, we live on a little tiny road that, with a really, really fragile ecosystem, that we're responsible for. And the thought that, there could be that many more houses, if this does indeed nullify that, that's a major concern.
Any other public comments? Audience?
I'm Laurie Chase, I live on Hemlock Lane. And I concur that this is a dangerous precedent to maybe setting. I think that perhaps rather than thinking about coercion, might think about the wisdom of those people. It is, after all, a lake shore base of that hill. I didn't hear much in the application about flow or aspect. It's a hill that drains down to the lake. And I think the wisdom in having those large lots probably is a good thing. And these is considered.
Any other public comments for the audience here? Would you like to unmute the folks online who have?
Yes, Miss Beth, I don't want to, thank you.
Thank you. 33 Hemlock Lane. Thank you. As I was waiting for this particular hearing to come up, I just noticed the careful deliberation and thought this board put toward every detail as they considered the previous application. And having gone through that and making your own conditions of approval and having your own reasons why you felt good about approving the previous application based on those conditions, I think you would likely understand that a previous board would have gone through a similar process and would not want a future board to be undoing the approved upon conditions, just as you today seems like you're leaning toward respecting the conditions that were put on this property by a previous board. I think this issue is a lot larger than just one lot. As my neighbors have mentioned, there are ecological impacts to the lake and the entire road, but really this has undue implications, unconsidered implications for the entire town, really. And you can imagine what chaos would ensue if boards just started willy-nilly undoing deeded rights of restriction that are indeed registered at the county registry of deeds, etc. So I appreciate this board honoring the commitments and the thoughtful considerations from past boards. Thank you.
Public comments?
Just double check. There's several people online. No one else has raised their hand to speak for or against this application.
At this time, I'll close public comment. Looking for a motion to approve the subdivision. We go by the application. I'm looking for a motion to approve the application.
To rescind it. I think that's what we're looking for right now.
But you didn't
Well, no.
file a separate application for that.
Right. You're just looking for approval
Well,
of approve the lot line adjustment for 260-13 and 14-GR-22-2 -2 lot /lot.
Second.
I didn't make a motion. I'm looking for a motion.
You should make that motion.
So
I don't want to make a motion.
you can make a motion to deny it.
I'm making a motion that we deny application, 250, -13 and 14 GR-22 2 lot /LL.
Because,
Finding of facts.
because,
Because there's no, compelling evidence to show that the previous decision made by the board was inappropriate.
I'll second the motion.
and the other one.
Just right. Half aye.
This is actually too. I have one of those lots. Thanks.
You seconded it, right?
Yes, I
I
second.
thought you did. Right. Okay.
Next up, -11 and 12 -RC -22 and 6.
Would you like me to go first?
Yes.
Good evening, my name is Barry Dyer, I'm the Film Beach engineers here for the applicant. This is, I think most people on the board have seen this before, this is Rock Island Repairs project for Jeff Sullivan. The project, the intent of it was is to construct a commercial site plan consisting of 2 steel buildings totaling 7,080 square feet. The project was originally submitted in March, included a wetland buffer impact of 1,396 square feet for access around the building and construction of a drainage swale. The board voted to approve the 9.6 in May. Subsequent to the vote in May, the fire chief requested a wider access lanes. This caused an increase in the wetland buffer impact to the requested 1,598 square feet. We did discuss this in June, but we didn't vote to modify the 9.6. So just to dot the i's, cross the t's, we were asking to update, amend the 9.6 to require 1,598. Yeah, 1,598 square feet.
Conversation from the board. Comments or commentary from our planner?
If you would like the applicant to read the 9.6 criteria,
Sure. I apologize. I don't have a criteria.
or not the criteria, the like just the 1 through 6.
So you have 5 criteria for this. Number 1 is the proposed use in keeping with the intent and purposes set forth in the zoning ordinance as permitted in the base zoning district. If the base zoning district requires conditional use permit for a special exception for the proposed use, one must already have been obtained. If the proposed use is not listed on the table of uses or is listed but not permitted, one must already have obtained variance, and the proposed use is allowed in this district. Number 2 is after review of all reasonable alternatives, it is determined to be infeasible to place the proposed structure or use outside of the buffer. After review of all reasonable alternatives, it is determined to be infeasible to place the proposed structure or use outside of the buffer zone. Because of the nature of this lot, we have the wetlands to the south and a long lot. We placed the buildings where we could, but we had to get around the buildings, which creates the need for the wetland buffer impact. Number 3 is that the proposed structure or use must be set back as far as possible from the delineated edge of the wetland or surface water. You can kind of see that we've extended our grading swale around the building as far to the north as possible, and we did have it as far to the south as possible until we had to increase the lanes. Number 4 is appropriate erosion control measures must be in place prior to and during construction. We have proposed perimeter erosion control for this project. And number 5 is that any disturbance to the surrounding buffer zone must be repaired and restored upon completion of construction. There is a slight amount of gravel for the drive that will be in the buffer but the remaining buffer impact will be a grass line swale. So we think we met with requirements. So one more.
That's the next page.
All available mitigation measures to address changes in water quality and quantity be implemented along with design and construction methods to minimize adverse impacts required by the planning board. So we are directing all the stormwater to a treatment feature. We do have erosion, perimeter erosion control to prevent any discharges. So we think we've met that criteria as well.
Motion to grant a waiver. For 9.6.
That's what, are we waiving or amending?
Well, it's still a waiver.
9.6 is the conditional use permit.
You're granting this special permit.
Mr. Chairman, if, cause like, I see it as, even though he's submitting a new application, because that's part of the process trying to figure out, like, since he's increasing the size, but it was due to the town's comments, I also put like amended the notice of decision, so you can view it as a new permit, but even though it's attached to the project.
Well,
So I guess you were saying-
We have a 9.6 approved, but a different square footage, right? So why don't we just amending it up to 1598? Isn't that what we're doing?
I think you got to be the.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I'm totally fine with that.
Let's amend it.
So you want to make the motion?
Yeah. I make a motion that we amend the 9.6 special permit for construction for application 265-11 and 12-RC-22-9 up to 1,598 square feet.
Second the motion.
Driscoll, aye.
Every long.
Just right.
I think you guys needed to do public comment as well.
Yes,
We need to do public comment on a waiver.
it's not a waiver.
It's not a waiver, it's a conditional.
Yes,
Permit.
sorry, I keep looking at this. Okay,
I'm sorry, I should have stopped you before you were.
yeah.
I just throw something.
So I will hold everyone's vote, please. Keep that in mind until public comment is complete. At this time, I'll open public comment. Anyone who would like to speak for or against the application?
Mr. Chairman, I don't see anybody online for or against it.
This time, I will close public comment.
Thank you.
And I will now entertain the motion made by Mr. Howard, seconded with the roll call vote provided by everyone. Does everyone's vote still stand? So it was still standing. No change.
I just have a quick comment for the board. Do you want to amend the notice of decision? Originally, what I had noted was just that the 9.6 was granted for the 1,598 square feet. That's the only thing that was added to it. They're under final review right now with their final plans. That's also how we caught the increase because of the final plans.
Yes, the only thing I would put on the notice of decision is the amended square footage for the 9.6.
Okay. I want to read all that. Everything.
I don't believe any make you entire.
Yes.
No, thank you.
No.
Okay.
For being its number to add to the following plans, a 9.6 special use permit was granted for 1,598 square feet.
Okay, thank you.
To be then the record was the official stage to the notice of decision.
And don't need to vote on
Yes, we.
it. Yeah, okay.
Mhm.
You voted on
So
7.6, but I
we're
think
gonna
you're
vote on
No.
the application, so.
For the amendment,
Right.
notice of decision.
Voting on acceptance of the application
Approval?
or approval of the application, thank you.
I'll second that.
Seconded by Mr. Driscoll. Roll call vote.
Driscoll, aye.
Capiello.
That's your right.
Alan, aye.
Napa.
I'm sorry, who made the original
I
motion?
made
You
the
did.
motion.
Okay.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Have a wonderful evening.
Well.
Next, application 110-19 and 20-GR-22-LL.
Mhm.
Christine and Brett.
Mr. Chairman, just want to let you know the applicant has asked me to display plan on the screen, so I'll do my best ability to show that, but it's the same that you have in front of you, or with your package, I mean.
Okay, so I can actually, if I want to zoom in here, I could.
No, but I can zoom in for you.
Just checking.
Yeah,
Still getting used to the new. This is the
the
first
new
time
face, yeah.
Thought they had the ability to take control.
It's okay. I mean,
You sure?
let's hope if we get to that point. then
Okay.
We'll figure it out.
Okay.
So you should be
As I can do it on here, but it's for this and for this, not necessarily for the, when you throw a third computer on there, I'm not sure how that goes.
Good evening. My name is Ray Visson from Stonewall Surveying. I'm here representing my clients, Christine, who is here in the audience, and Brett Aston, for their boundary line adjustment between their neighbor, Michael, and Stacy Gerard. The purpose of the adjustment is to give them the relief on the side setback for proposed garage that they're trying to put on the back of the house. The original house was there prior to the 2003 subdivision, and they kind of worked the lines around what was existing for vegetation at the time. The placement of the garage is difficult because the client doesn't want the garage to be at the front of that, by the road. They're trying to keep it hidden. There's a lot of landscaping, vegetation, the leach field, a retaining wall that's pretty new. And, that's basically where the driveway is currently. Currently, there's a gravel and grass access way through the gate that kind of goes to the backyard, fresh stone area that they actually had a temporary storage tent there that they moved off this year. And that's what they're trying to replace, where they had that storage tent. The lot line adjustment would convey 0.12 acres from lot 19 to lot 20. This application does require relief from the wetland buffer ordinance because as they cannot meet the 50-foot requirement. We're asking for a 15-foot relief, so the proposed garage would be 35 feet at the closest point to the edge of wet. In total would be approximately 625 foot of impact into the buffer. This area, it's all within the lawn. I don't know if you guys can see on the plan, there is a tree line. That's the little squirrels. And then there's actually a fence that goes right along the edge of the tree line in that area. No additional tree cutting is proposed. And like I said, it's going to all fall within what is fenced. Any questions?
Questions from the board?
Couldn't that proposed garage be moved a little further so it's not in the buffer zone, like closer to where it says crushed stone and leach field? Couldn't it come over that way a little bit? And that was buffer zone?
Yeah, I mean, right now, we're trying to keep an ability to go by the garage to the retaining wall. Right now, the garage is going on to where the gravel access way is. So they want to keep enough space between the garage and the retaining wall so they can kind of still get through there. If not, then they'll basically have to still use that gravel access way, which would go away with the garage being there. They're trying to keep the garage close to the pavement, close to the house, because it's a part of the house itself in a sense. So going back too far into the yard isn't really practical.
Well, but if you take Joe's suggestion, move it down, why couldn't you access the yard from around the garage?
I had the same take on it when I looked at it and pulled the garage over, get it out of the buffer, and then you have access all the way around to the back.
Yeah, well, we can't get it out of the buffer completely. I mean, unless you're referring to sliding it back into the backyard as opposed to being up near the driveway. Are you saying move it to the retaining wall or are you saying move it to the backyard?
Not to the king.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it could go close to the retaining wall, but it won't get it out of the buffer.
But you're supposed to minimize impacts of buffer, not, you know, it's not. I'm doing some, I can do more. It's, you know, so all reasonable alternatives to minimize impact.
Well, we were kind of talking and we figured that the impact of the building being there was probably a safer alternative to the wetland than like a driveway going, like a, you know, a area that you'd be driving vehicles through or tractors through or whatever. That being on the inside would be farther away from the wetland.
I guess I was struggling with like following your scale. Without having to make significant impact to the wall, you can get the setback so that you're a full 50 feet from the buffer.
The wall would be, I mean, that'd be for the expense to move. That wall is pretty brand new and it was very expensive to put in there and it's require quite a bit of excavation work to move that over compared to where this is all flat and it's already, we can move it over. You know, probably get 5 feet more and they could still have a walkway between there.
Well, a walkway, I see steps on the retaining wall, so you already have a walkway back there.
Well, I mean, but walk by the garage.
If you're gonna walk, why don't you walk up the steps?
If you accessing part of the garage.
Well, things you're allowed to do in the buffer, I mean, you can, you know, you can't put a structure in the buffer, but you can drive over the buffer. You can, that is not, so saying I don't want to drive around because I'm driving in the buffer. Taking my lawnmower back or whatever. That's allowed in the buffer, but the structures in the buffer are not allowed. So of the two, you know, saying that I don't want to drive back there is not really what the regulations envision. That's not the spirit and intent of the regulations, I guess that's saying. Get the structure out of there, get the construction out of it.
Like I said, we can slide it closer to that retaining wall. It just, my client would like to be able to walk between the retaining wall and the actual garage. And so, I mean, right now we're about 8 feet is the distance to the retaining wall without disturbing the wall. So, I mean, moving it 5 feet would give us 3 feet to move around and not to disturb the wall when we're building the garage. That would put us now at about a 40-foot setback from the buffer.
Can you go back in the yard?
Yeah, it's down and back, I guess, what Joyce is saying. Wouldn't that accomplish both? Could be a way to walk back there and in case they have a buffer?
But then you're increasing the pavement. You're increasing the length of the driveway, you're extending the distance from the house.
I mean, the words are all reasonable alternatives to, you know, so. I think it has to be a hardship, financial hardship in order to accomplish that. I think the current location, to me, is problematic given the requirements for a wetland buffer impact. Current location. I mean, you've already kind of conceded that you can move it, reduce the impact by at least 5 feet.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
if
think
we
choices
moved
is
it to 5 feet, would that actually be suitable?
Well, I think that we have to look at what Joyce says, moving it back. You still could, I think you still, it looks to me like you could move it back a little bit and down a little bit. And
Well, I mean, I guess the question I would ask, I mean, I know it's a structure, and you're saying the structure is what's in the buffer. Okay, but if you're saying that driveways, all that stuff can all be within the buffer, you're talking about impact.
no, I'm not saying driveways, but if you want to
Well-
access the backyard with a,
Yeah, but you're still driving through the buffer to get to the garage. I mean, you're gonna have,
Slide it with Joyce would like it. She's talking about.
well, you have a 2-car garage, and you're gonna have the pavement up to the garage, so you're going to have. Well, the farther we extend that, the more pavement you're gonna do, the more vegetation and more lot coverage you're gonna do. To me, that has more of an impact on the environment than having it closer to the existing pavement. So, I mean, I think moving it closer to the retaining wall makes sense, but to slide it back, all you're doing is impacting the buffer the same amount, but with something different.
you got crushed stone, why couldn't you move it back and angle it a little bit? And
You're still gonna have a driveway go through them. You're gonna have, the width of the garage is the width of the driveway. If you have a 2-car garage, you're gonna have pavement that's the width of the 2 cars. So if we were to extend that back, even if we were to extend it back 20 feet, we're gonna end up having 20 feet of pavement to get there. So to me, it seems like it's a wash. We're taking the structure and putting it where the pavement would be.
well, there's a difference between impermeable and permeable, thermal. You know what I mean? If you put gravel, it's not a permeable surface. So it is different.
You're doing gravel.
Gravel is not an impermeable surface.
But I mean, we're talking about, it's already an all paved driveway going down to this. And again, it's it's part of the existing house. When you come out in the wintertime, you're gonna walk across, you go to the garage. You're walking across the pavement. You're not gonna wanna walk across the gravel that's now ice.
Just a general, because I'm a stickler on those. I wouldn't call it part of the existing house because it's not attached to the existing house. It doesn't exist. So it's not part of an existing anything at this point. It would be an addition to an existing lot, which, although it wouldn't be a condition in it wouldn't be something that our approval is based on, but looking through the subdivision covenants, it notes that all garages are attached to the structure.
House, because it's already there.
Like I said, it wouldn't matter from the decision
Yeah.
standpoint
Yeah.
anyway. I'm just pointing out that it's in here with the covenants that was attached to the application.
I mean, I guess what I would ask would be that we basically leave the garage close to the pavement where it is, but we slide it up to the retaining wall.
And 5 feet is all you can give us there.
I mean, the struggle I see is the cost of building a garage was a lot more than probably that piece of retaining wall right there.
I mean, we want to keep a little separation from the wall because it's been.
To get into the garage, I think that's the other problem is if you get too close to the garage, you have to be able to get into the garage, not hitting the wall.
That angle, I don't see how putting it even all the way to the retaining wall, I don't see how that prevents you from driving in. You have a pretty good shot.
No, I'm saying where it is. We'll just slide it. Right back, slide it right up against that retaining wall, just leave a little bit of space to get in. I'm saying if we were to move it I'm saying if we moved it back in here, which I'm not sure if that's what you were trying to ask, if we moved it back into there, we're basically, gonna take the pavement and kind of extend this all the way up to where it's gonna be. So the pavement will all still be all within that buffer. So
That's what you were talking about.
that's what I was trying to get
I thought you
understood.
were talking about in front of the garage.
No, I'm saying, so like here, okay, so if we leave it here, we can slide it down. Just right here, slide it there, we'll pick up 5 feet of more, so what are we asking for, a 40 or be a 10-foot?
But if you rotate it a little bit too, this way,
Rotate it, which way?
Like clockwise.
clockwise. That would get that back edge out of the bumper, right? So why would you rotate it clockwise? And get that back part of it out? It'd give you probably better access into the garage.
Well, part of it is he was hoping to do solar panels on the garage. If we rotate it too much more, it's. Then.
I think, the issue, that the words matter, the words say all reasonable terms have to be investigated in order to minimize the impact. And I think.
And again, but even if we rotated the garage this way, now the pavement's gonna still be going through that whole part of the buffer.
I understand what you're saying, but it's not even if you had the pavement in the buffer, the impact is not as significant as that whole roof shedding down into the buffer.
The water's gonna run off the pavement. How's that any different than?
You have more surface area, roof has more surface area than a true.
Right, but you're having more surface area because you're actually adding more pavement. So keeping this closer to the pavement is actually gonna have less of that impervious surface. Farther we move this, the more it's getting, more that impacts this buffer.
Well, if you rotate it clockwise, the lower edge will come in and reduce the pavement requirement, right?
But you still have the driveway. You still gotta get into the driveway.
As the retaining wall makes the curve, if, where the curve ends, if you put that corner and swing it around, there will be impacts, but I'm looking at maybe 4 or 5 feet.
You're talking,
Pavement impact. So it slides back.
I guess I'm not seeing what you're seeing.
No, our screen needs to be good.
That was, I'm looking at it, I think the same thing John was. Hold it, march down that really quick.
Sure. So here it goes. Is 24 feet. So the impact of the paving, well, it's there. It's,
So this is what,
that's kind of what John is.
Yeah, right.
Giving on that edge.
I'd have to do double bit. I'll do that.
Stated on the
You're getting it out of buffer 100%.
Well, that, most of the building is out of the buffer.
Yeah, okay.
Right, so pavement impact is 4 or 5 feet.
Yeah.
With,
right, negligible.
I mean, I don't know if that's an option.
This is reasonably feasible.
So you're still impacting the buffer in that area. I mean, not the structure.
Yeah.
But we basically doubled almost the amount of coverage. So basically, by moving that over, we're now having twice as much runoff in that one area. I mean, that's the part that I'm looking at, is I understand the setback. I understand the purpose of the buffer, but I'm also looking at the practical purpose of, right now, we're not cutting the trees. It's already being utilized property. It's already been disturbed. And we're looking at doing a reasonable location, and like I said, we can slide it to that retaining wall. But it doesn't, to me, it doesn't make sense to add like double the impervious surface, just to get the building out of the buffer. That kind of, to me, defeats the purpose a little bit of what the buffer is supposed to be for.
There's no topo on this, right? I didn't see the topo.
Yeah, there is.
I believe it's
And it
like a
actually
dash
runs,
line.
it actually running to the rear. You have a black and white version, or do you have a?
You can't see the topo lines on the one.
Oh, it's that's copied. They use the topo lines. The water, runs down this way.
And you want to put last 2 foot, it's 5 foot, 2 foot, 2 foot, 2 foot, that's a cut. That's not, it's not very deep.
No, you just don't move the little variety and going down. It's all running off into that area.
Now, what projection would have of moving this forward? I couldn't move that forward. When it gets into here, do some page.
Well, that's kind of what I'm saying, is that if we basically move this whole thing this way. You know, we're basically, we move it 5 feet, we're gonna basically kind of. Yeah, quite a bit of that area.
What's your definition of rotated clockwise? I don't understand it.
I'm just looking at the way the pavement would,
Pavement
the
goes.
way you would drive into the garage.
I think that, to me, that would give you better access, so it's rotated clockwise, wouldn't it? I mean, it's more straight in.
Yeah, I agree. It's the old structure, and if you still follow it.
Yeah, it's fun. It seems to me it would be better access like in the garage.
And I'm assuming the
It's
existing,
radius driving in. They might take a turn or, maybe the driveway,
Be much straighter.
and straight right into the garage.
Yeah.
Like the same.
Yeah.
and it looks like the existing driveway is probably pretty close to in the buffer. Anyway, in the back there, is that?
Yeah, the back corner,
Yeah.
it is, yep.
So I actually think you could help control some of that impact. A much straighter shot into it.
You want to see this?
And do you want to state for the record that you're all looking at?
Oh, I just pulled up the Google map on it so I can zoom in and see the existing property detail. It's the one that is attached to our plan set is grainy and very difficult to see.
How tall is that retaining wall?
Four feet.
Yeah. I mean, it's, I think there's 5 stairs there to get up.
Like to see it.
So the property line adjustments.
0.6 is bigger than the property.
Are you looking at solar on one side of the garage or?
Yeah, because it's all, there's woods on the other side. And I did notice, unfortunately, that there's no north arrow on that plan, so I apologize. I saw that today. Just so you guys know, that's north. Yeah, I mean, so from talking to Brett earlier today, you know, he was hoping to keep the rotation to where it was, just because of for the solar, the way he actually envisions getting it out of the garage. You know, how he would drive in, how he would back out. You know, like I said, we can slide it closer to the retaining wall.
So you asking for
And
continuance to come back with a revised plan?
yeah, so can we get an opinion on basically moving it 5 feet?
I think you've heard that some people want to have the rotation part investigated as well and look at the impacts both ways. So I think if, to me, you know, there's been a suggestion that rotating a little bit helps. You know, same with pavement, it doesn't. But I think that's an opinion rather than there's evidence to support that.
It's buildings out of the buffer, but you have pavement in the buffer, just show that. So that's kind of what people want to look at.
So is it pavement or is it gravel? I guess it matters to me.
It sounds like it's paved.
Well, the whole driveway's paved.
Yeah. Buildings all closed.
And are we sure that you can't use solar if you rotate it anymore?
Well, you want, you know, you want the building to be actually as close to south as possible.
Right.
And already it's a little bit skewed from it, not as much. If anything, it would actually be better if it was actually spun the other way, but we can't do that because we get more into the wetland buffer.
Or you change the roof line, but then you're dumping everything right in front of your garage
Yeah.
doors.
Right, and originally, he actually wanted it to be basically perpendicular with the garage, I mean, the existing house, so it would all line up. But that wasn't gonna work because of trying to minimize, so we rotated it to this point to get us as much as we can.
Sure, how much of potential for solar is a consideration for 1.6.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's not written in here, so, but we can't put some.
Mr. Chairman and the board too as well, do you want to accept the application as complete before you move forward with continuation or a public comment and that sort of thing too, just to keep that in mind.
I just had a question. Is the lot line adjustment to create your setback from for the building? Is that the whole point of the lot line?
Part of it, and also because the existing tree line, which is kind of how the subdivision, you know, that house was there. And as it is, they already are, the tree line is actually on the neighbor's property. Now, granted, we're not getting all of it out of, off their property. You know, they didn't want to extend it. Originally, we had talked about going from the granite bound all the way out back, which would have eliminated any of the lawn encroachments, but, they didn't quite want to go to that extreme. So, they were willing to go from the midpoint iron rod that's there and swing the line. But that does give us the 35-foot, or 30-foot setback on the side. But the wetland is more of an issue than the property line.
That's, I was just trying to figure out why there was a lot line adjustment in weird things. Like when you looking at it from an aerial standpoint, it seemed pretty tree, even when I looked at it, so I didn't understand it unless you were trying to cut more back out. Okay. How would the board like to proceed at this point? Would you like to accept the applications, to open it up for public comment, then accept the applications, or accept the application is complete, then open it for public comment?
I think a motion to, that is complete.
So we have a motion to accept application 110-19 and 20-22-LL/96 as complete from John Driscoll and seconded by Joyce Capiello. Roll call vote.
Driscoll, aye.
Capiello, aye.
Tessie, aye. Yeah, fine. Next one. This time I'll open public comment. Can further discuss the waivers.
I don't see anybody online that's for or against the application.
Public comment, people got it out early.
No, there's just still a few people on there, so I'm not sure.
All right, hearing no public comment, I'll close public comment at this time. Now, on to our conversation on the waivers. We have a 9/6 waiver, request for waiver and a lot line adjustment.
Special permit.
Sorry, special permit and a lot line adjustment.
Go ahead with the well.
Or-
I proposed that we accept a request by the applicant proposing a lot line adjustment between the 110 lots 19 and 20 on a 2.32 acre lot in the general residential zone district.
Just the what?
Happy yellow.
That'd be all right. All right.
Nap on.
Ron, that was you. That's
It
second.
was seconded by Ron.
Ron, okay.
Motion by Joyce.
Got the picture, yeah.
On the 9/6. I guess that question there is how do we?
I mean, is it possible to get, so it's conditional approval if we were to move it 5 feet, so it's at 40 foot?
Yeah. It's gotta be the completed plan and the request for exactly what it is for.
So I guess we'll have to ask for continuance on that then and come back with it being revised, but. So what is the board, if we come back and we basically show it the 5 feet over? And we basically show, okay, what the previous area is of the added pavement along with the proposed garage. And then I basically show an example of what Mr. Driscoll was saying with the pavement as an example and with the square footages for impervious. Is that something that you guys would like to see?
My recommendation on it would be to make sure that you can answer the conditions around the 9/6 very clearly in a way that shows that there's an actual hardship created by not granting the 9/6.
But I think you're of the opinion that some of us think rotating would help. I think it'd be good to present evidence that that helps or it's.
Show the 5 foot moving 2. Present 2 options, I guess.
Yeah, the 5 and yeah.
Yep. Or a
The next meeting.
So the January 3rd, I want to say. Yes, January 3rd at 6:30 PM.
motion to continue to January 3rd, 6 p.m.
6:30?
6:30
6:30,
p.m.
sorry.
Thank you.
And that's only for the 9.6.
Yes.
You make the motion?
I'll make the motion to continue to January 3rd, 6:30 p.m. Same that time, same that place. Second by John Driscoll. Who's what?
Happy yellow.
Just Calvin. Matt Hodge.
Yes, I do. There you go.
Appreciate it.
No problem. Where's my teeth?
Next item on the docket, 251-9-GR-22-SR, owners Tyler and Katie Land. 4.3 conditional use, a conference center for events. Addition for a small apartment. Well, that's other stuff. Yeah.
Good evening. My name is Tyler Rance, my wife Katie. My intention is to give a quick overview of who we are and what we have and what we intend. You still want this on the screen?
You can close it if you want.
Oh,
But it's,
Oh, up there, I'm sorry.
there you
Nope, thank you.
go. So,
On my end, it doesn't show it. That's why.
well, Katie and I were born and raised in New Hampshire, born in Portsmouth. Katie was born in Portsmouth, I was born in Hanover. Born and raised here, moved to New Hampshire, went to UNH and didn't leave. Been working at the Portsmouth Shipyard for 25 years now. It's my full-time job. Been part of Barrington Fire for 10, 12 years or so. Katie's been in the town, in the middle school for a number of years, teaching there. We bought our primary house. The property was subdivided in 2003 before we owned it. We moved to town. It was one lot and subdivided into 4. We own 132 Ham Road. That's where we reside. And then in 2009, we bought what we're calling the barn property, and that's what we're talking about here. It is on the lot mentioned on the 251 lot 9. So with the subdivision, we had the barn close to us for 6 years, and we were very happy in 2008 when we were able to purchase it at the height of the market. It was very tempting to always have it so close yet so far. When we bought it, it was in rough shape. Some pictures here from when we bought it, we started restoring it, getting it back up and going. We kept the lot separate, so it is its own separate lot from our primary house. And we've been renovating it since then. We've had a number of functions there, from birthday parties. We've had Katie's sister got married there. We've had a couple different weddings there over the years. Looking to get into, have this as a side hustle for us, something that can help pay taxes, something that can help with the community, be able to have, we have had nonprofits in there for Big Brothers Big Sisters. We have had Boy Scouts in there in the past, and looking to be able to continue to be able to get people into the barn and be able to use it as a function hall. The primary function that we would like to do, that we would like to be able to make some money on, is for weddings, wedding venues, that type of thing. That's the primary thing that we want to do. But in order to do all of that, we need to have a B zone for a conference center in this general residential area. So we have currently on the barn, as shown in those pictures, which are taken just a couple weeks ago. That's the basic condition right now, although we have approval through the town for an addition, which is been approved. And we are putting on a 53 by 30 addition on the north side of the barn. It's not showing any pictures right now because that isn't there yet. That is not what I'm here to talk to you guys about, but it is factored into what's going on. This is partially installed. The foundation is not yet installed, so it's not been approved by the state as far as certified by the state. But I do have an approved septic design. So working with building codes to get that addition built, and that's going to be built to code. So what we are proposing to be able to do is to have the barn as a venue that we can have people. So what this is showing, the colored things in just to kind of show it. This shows our current existing driveway. It shows the existing barn shown basically here. This is the addition. You can't see the addition anywhere. And this is our current house. This is 132 Ham Road. And this does not have a 911 address. So what we're proposing to do is be able to have venues, people to our property to be able to use either the barn and or the yard, the lot, for functions, for events, such as weddings, or other things that you'd use a convention center for. For parking, the yard, the land is very flat, so it's on Ham Road. It's basically in the large field area. If you don't know where Ham Road is, I can show on the map. It's a very open area. I took 2 pictures of the roughly 500 feet that you can see on either side of the road. That's standing right, the bottom 2 pictures are showing to the left and to the right, east and west of my property. And so what I'm proposing is to have a parking spot, this area here. I'm looking to be able to have up to 400 people be able to be there. I'm sure that the fire chief will not allow 400 people inside the barn. I'm not proposing that they would be inside the barn, but for a wedding or any sort of function out there, that would be kind of my thought for the property. The lodge, kind of the parking that I have there in brown is set up for 50 cars. That would be showing roughly 200 people. And then if I needed to, my whole lot could be made into a parking lot. There's plenty of space to add another 50 cars there if needed. I have talked already with fire chief, being on the fire department. I see him from time to time, and I've talked to him about this property, talked to him about different requirements and about how that works with being able to figure out the amount of people allowed inside the building. He said he will not determine that until after getting approved for a convention center. But I'll make sure to abide by all of the fire codes and all the regulations and all the zoning that goes in with that. So what I think needs to happen is, right now we're commercial residential. I'm sorry, we are general residential right now. If we are approved to be a conference center, then we could be a conference center, but we wouldn't be able to have anyone stay in. This addition is going to be able to do 3 things. It's going to be a workshop for me. It's going to have bathrooms. The addition will be 4-season. The barn is not 4-season. The barn is not insulated, 3-season. But I want to be able to have 4-season bathrooms that can support the barn. The third thing that the addition is going to have is an apartment in that area. So if I'm approved to be a conference center, help me out on this so I get this right. If I'm approved to be a conference center, then I wouldn't be able to have anyone stay in the apartment unless I went to the zoning board to be mixed use. I'm on the plans to go to the zoning board on the 21st, I believe it is, to be approved for mixed use. And then I would need to come back to the planning board to be finally approved with mixed use, if I have that right.
Yeah, I could, Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yeah.
So, the project has evolved a little bit over when they initially came in and like what they wanted to use it for. That's why it seems like we're kind of going, but sometimes you want to, not that we're going backwards, but sometimes you go to get your go to the ZBA for a special exception and then come to the planning board. And we found out that they wanted to do more than just do like a mother-in-law suite in a workshop garage. They wanted to use it for other uses, or the potential for other uses. That's when we advised them that they have to go for the ZBA. So they're coming here tonight to, we gave them the option if they wanted to maybe continue into then, but they wanted to also see if there's anything else that the board may want to see in that time. I did draft a notice of decision. in case the board wants to entertain it, because I know that the landowners originally said that they would want to, but they may need more information before giving that drafted notice.
I'll be candid, I need a lot more information.
Yeah.
So please, I have more. I don't know how much to tell you and I want to go on.
I mean, I can tell from the staff point of view, but the applicant's here to talk about his.
What do you, I mean, I can keep talking, but I'd rather focus discussion towards answering questions.
From my standpoint, I would really like to see some clear delineation of what you're actually looking for, what you're requesting. And then are you following the checklist with the items that are needed for that item, for that use?
Okay.
And it's gonna be things like a lighting plan
Yep.
for parking. It's gonna be
Yep.
like your yield plan as to how many people, what you're looking for the space and the occupancy and the setup and.
Yep.
Uh,
So
So they've asked to come for a minor site plan for the conditional use permit. Just for the permitted use. I'm just you guys can require really the same.
So we are looking to have functions inside the barn. The number of people allowed in there, I will only be determined by the fire chief. That will be decided after approved to be a convention center. I know that the dimensions of the barn, and if we use 15 square feet per person, that comes out to 153 people inside the barn. That is not a number that I can use. It's a swag because it has to come back to the fire chief. But if I were to say that the barn occupancy was 140 people, that's just a number, then that would be able to put 140 people inside the barn. There are some functions, some weddings that we wanted that we could proceed where we would have a tent outside on the lot. And with that, we would possibly exceed 140. I don't want to limit myself to saying we're going to have only people inside the barn. So I'm trying to keep it open enough. But if we had 140 people there, there's enough parking to fit 200 as shown on the parking plan that I've set up. As far as lighting, we've been working with Joel Weaver. He's already been out to the barn. He's helped us inside our house. He's a lighting design out of Bow Street in Portsmouth. Working with him, I know that we have the requirements that have 0.2 to 3 candle foot candles in a parking lot. And so working with him to make sure that we have the proper lighting off of the barn or possibly off of the Christmas trees set up there that can send rope lighting down along the parking spot. The parking and the driveway access to the parking spot goes off of the road and comes in. Our driveway is unique in that forms a little island. So it actually allows us to have easy for people to come in and be off the road before entering the parking road, if you will, to the right. And another spot where people can leave on their own. So you can have it come in and it go out that is off of the main road, not affecting travel up and down the road in any aspect. And the front of the barn would be illuminated as well to provide plenty of lighting for that driveway over to the parking lot area. It is not my intention to pave or gravel or anything. It's going to be a grass field, continue to be a grass field, just like it is now. It's 14 inches of great soil and then 30 feet of sand below that. So the drainage is not an issue in the times that I want to have these functions. I'm not trying to handcuff myself to saying it's just going to be in the summertime, but with a uninsulated barn, there's not going to be events in the wintertime just because of where we live, where we reside.
I'm sorry, go ahead. No, please.
Hours of operation and noise.
Yeah, so, we absolutely gonna stick to the Barrington ordinance of shutting things down. I think it's at 10 o'clock for town. We're saying that the function is over at 9:30, with the understanding that people need to leave after 9:30. So there maybe people there until, say, 11 to do cleanup and stuff, but functions would end about 9:30. As far as when they would start, again, it would be, I would say something like 8 o'clock in the morning would be a rough start, depending, because I would like to be able to open this up to, say, Boy Scouts, and be able to have them come in for a day event and not just talking a nighttime. It's not the intention to be a nighttime function hall per se, but to be able to have businesses come in for a meeting or something like that.
I do want to say this project got started, we bought the property in 2000, bought the house in 2003. We completely renovated it ourselves. And we never had the intention of doing this. When we started the barn project, we bought the barn, and ironically, my sister was getting married that same year. And she asked if she could do the wedding. So that sparked us to pick up the renovations and do a little bit more. It's been, so that was 2009. And it's been about 13 years, and we've been working really hard on this barn. So we're really looking to have some events to, yes, to make some cash. We have 3 kids going to college here pretty soon. And also give back to the community, which we have been doing for the last 13 years. So.
Like the hockey rink.
What's that?
Yeah,
I've been running by your barn for years.
We, the hockey rink, we are continuing to put the hockey rink in our lot. You might see it going up right now. My kids are out there helping me, but that's.
Please, I know this is a late night for you, so we definitely want questions, and we are in the process of putting the structure up right now, and having that small, so having that small apartment attached along with a workshop that he's always asked for. We just.
Did I address your question, sir?
Yeah, for the most part, I was hung up on the whole comfort, what you call it
So
it's a conference center, right?
yeah,
Well,
the peach, to kind of give you some light on, the peach farm came in over the summer, and they had to use the same,
yeah, I got there, it's just he was referring to it as,
he may have said a different word for it, but it's a conference,
calling it something else, but I was like, yeah, it's not.
and that's okay, but
It's okay,
yeah.
yeah, it's just, it's what we're referring to it as is written.
Because we don't really have anything that addresses like a venue or multi-purpose function hall. I don't know. Conference center is the closest one.
Conference center, yes. And I don't think there's anything better for that, any better description that is there.
To me, once we get the details worked out, it sounds like a really nice project. Will be good for them.
I've been watching you work in that barn for years.
Well, stop it. What details can I?
Well, I don't know, Andy, you were talking about the application you said, if we use a checklist. There's a waiver request.
Well, a couple of things, you're not gonna have a commercial kitchen.
No, there's no
Commercial
commercial
liquor is handled by an outside party.
outside
Those
party.
were big things we
Yeah.
talked about with the peach orchard.
Yeah.
Restrooms,
Yeah, so the restrooms are part of the addition that's going in now.
so there'd be enough for a big.
Yeah.
For 400 people.
No, well, so no, there will not be enough for 400 people. There will be enough for the occupancy allowed by Chief Walker.
There's a little stuff that we're going
So my expectation that there will be, and what I'm working with, the building code is to have 3 bathrooms in the addition. 2 will be accessible from the barn, not from the addition. So So that if you're in the addition, you can't access
Page
those without going into the barn.
9 of the site plan review.
I have some
Site
plans here.
site plan
And
review.
then you have
Sorry, on that one.
separate for those.
In the apartment is a single 3/4 bath. That is for that apartment. So the idea of that apartment is either twofold. It could be with 3 teenagers coming up, it could be or my grandparent, my parents. It could be a fully functional apartment. Or we have it in our mind where it could be a bridal suite. If we have, say, a Murphy bed, the bed can hide up out of the way, set that those rooms up for a bridal suite to have the bridesmaids and
Get ready.
get ready in that area. And then they could transition from that apartment around the corner and after going outside and then back into the barn and be inside the barn.
And then do you have another restroom for your workshop?
No, there's no restroom for the workshop. There's going to be a door on the outside and the door going into the barn for the wintertime. And then if I needed to, I could use those 2 bathrooms that are inside the barn themselves. Because the barn is, the addition will be insulated, the barn is not again.
In the tent, if you have a tent that would be
Yeah.
close to, but not near.
We have had a tent
Yeah.
right along here, where we've had parking along here. We've had a tent located here and when we exceed the occupancy of the barn, we would have porta potties that we've had many porta potties there in the past. Everything from trailers to just regular traditional porta potties.
We've also added, about 40, plants, trees, a variety of large.
Yeah, so that it's actually closer to 50, but those trees are currently right along this line here between where I'm saying the driveway is.
Yeah.
And the road. That is to help with natural fence between the road and the field that's currently there. Those trees are installed in the ground now. Put them in 2 weeks ago.
The road agent should have some comments that you probably noted those.
I'm sorry, I did not.
The issue for the highway department is potentially 50 cars using the existing driveways to get in and out of the parking area. This could lead to a lot of confusion. My opinion, his opinion, that you would not want 50 cars traveling through the driveway closest to the house. Well, not close to the house, to the right. That would be right, because that would, I guess if you made one an entrance, one an exit.
That was my intention.
Yeah.
If we were to have a large
Yeah.
function, then I would cordon it off to have cars coming in this side. So this would be coming in and then to go out and come around this side here. The distance from the house to the barn, I think, is 70 feet. So this is our current driveway there. I mean,
He did continue saying even if the entrance to the barn was only designated access to the parking lot, it would have to be widened and realigned to allow 2-way traffic. I guess he was saying the way it's curved. You probably want a T intersection or something.
Okay.
Realign to allow 2-way traffic in the parking lot with an offshoot road to the entrance of the barn, handicap drop. Current easterly entrance is just not perpendicular to him, but it's his comments.
Okay, for the handicap.
Talk to him about it.
Yep. So for the handicap, we do have, the barn is accessible on both sides, and so it'd be my intention for handicap parking
Oh, yeah.
to be designated between our house, which I realize that it's not on the property in question, but this is the property in question. The driveway the property line goes right up the middle of the driveway. So the handicap parking would be over here. There'd be spots for.
Police had no issues, and the fire chief just said the town will need to issue a 911 compliance street.
there is a requirement for them. In table 4, there's a requirement for a certain number of handicap, depending on how many parking spaces you put in.
Okay.
So you need to comply with that.
And that, I believe, sir, would be based on the occupancy. There's so many floors here. If there's 100, occupancy of 100, would need to have X number.
I think it's total number of spaces in one.
Oh, okay.
So total number of parking spaces. You know, there has to be a certain number of them.
Yep.
Probably want to consider, if since you're catering, you probably want to have someplace offload and load. As well. Right now, the way I read it, 4.9.11. It says either paved or non-paved. Non-paved must be graded, surface with crushed stone, gravel, or other suitable material. And it's stable.
Okay.
So right now, I think grass is would not be in compliance with this as it is. Just can request a variance. We're guaranteed to get them, but right now, the way I read it, 2% doesn't complies.
Okay.
Probably talk to staff, what's the number, but that's the area.
What number?
4.9.11 is parts of the other circle. And that's in the section, that's not only the section. So section.
Yeah. That's gonna be done with. So let's foster kids.
Again, it is my intention for the handicap parking to designate this area here for that, for handicap. Right. Which is paved.
I'm looking at it right now, I think you got enough space.
Yep, I just wrote down, I'll understand it. Thank you.
So looking through it, if I look at the criteria for determination of a minor site plan, there's a whole list of criteria under 2.6.2 and making sure that those items are addressed and answered, I think is important, and it goes through specifically, the site plan will have a minimum traffic impact on the surrounding road network. So are you requesting a waiver from that if that's the case? There's no alteration of access to public streets, minimum lot grading, minor drainage improvements are required to accommodate any increased drainage due to improvements. Increase in the gross floor area. Now, it doesn't appear that you're increasing the floor area of the barn or anything like there, but that all needs to be clarified with the plan set, which is answered if you do the checklist and you're requesting a waiver from the checklist.
Yes.
How do we get the answers to these questions if you're requesting a waiver?
So I understand that I will want to provide this checklist.
Also, I think when we did the peach orchard, they didn't have to have gravel right in that upper parking lot. I think grass was fine.
I think so.
Yeah.
So they got a waiver, so.
But I believe they also did the checklists.
Oh,
They went
yeah.
through their checklists to come in with
Checklist is
address
a good thing to do.
and then ask for any specific waivers from the checklist that were addressed there. So I mean, from my standpoint, those are the answers that help guide this process. And answer a lot of the questions we would then ask as a board.
Okay.
Does that help clarify that?
No, I think it does. I think it does. Is it, do you understand and agree with the mixed use and then the issue that I have to go to the zoning board for mixed use? Is there anything else I need to ask in regards or?
They're two separate.
Yeah, two different things, but I do need to come back. I need to be approved for mixed use prior to.
If you want to do your
approval.
structure, for like how you're saying, like with all the.
Yeah.
All the
Okay.
things. Yeah.
So, okay, so I guess we are looking for a continuance.
This can be a conceptual review, right?
Well,
No, they've submitted they submitted a formal application as a minor site plan.
So I think you need to decide.
I asked them if they wanted to come in for it and they said they wanted to do a submission.
At this time, I don't think the application is complete, so it's. We need a complete application in order to accept it as complete.
I think the checklist, you do it, right?
So you make a motion to not accept this complete and specify why it's not complete.
Make a motion to not accept the application as complete since we have not received a completed checklist providing clarifying details for the application.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Driscoll, aye.
Can't be yellow.
Testy, right?
Looks like a great plan, though.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful barn. I've been watching you guys renovate it for years and
It's a lot of work. It's fun. I do enjoy doing the renovation, or else I wouldn't be doing it. So,
Did you give a date and time for the continuance?
no, I think.
It wasn't continued.
Oh, was it?
It wasn't even accepted.
Sorry, they were planning up for it. Okay.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
So did they need to
I need to reapply.
reapply?
Yep. And they can ask for waiver of the.
Yes, I would request that we take a 5-minute fire break for everyone before we go to the next step.
Sorry. Here we move you. I can't move.
Right.
Here, I'll put us on mute. If anybody is online, we're taking a few minute break to use the facilities. Unmute. We are back.
Good evening and welcome back again. Next item, 239-35-V-22-17. So the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening. My name is Scott Cole from Beals Associates, our senior project manager. I have with me here tonight Joseph Calzone, the developer of the project, and we also have James Long from GEZ, who is the professional wetland and soil scientist for the project. I know some of you have seen this project before as we were here in design review. I know some people are new to it, so I'll just give a brief overview of the project and bring you up to date of where we are. So we started on this project here. This is known as map 239 lot 35. Also historically known as the Gupta gravel pit. This lot consists of 43 acres. As you can imagine, there's a gravel pit left in its kind of a standstill state. We have some excavated areas, some forest areas, and the blue area shown on the color display plan is Malibu Brook. The frontage of this parcel is Malibu Road. The coloration plan in front of you, we have an olive color that is wetlands on the project. The total wetlands is 5.9 acres or roughly 14%. Joe is looking at this property to develop it for a residential subdivision. In order to do that, no matter what way you go, you have to start with a conventional design, which gives you your yield. We did a conventional design, which has been submitted of a through road. So basically it came from where the proposed road for the cluster is now out to the east side of the project. We designed a road through road, which yielded 18 conventional lots. It was recommended at that time at the design review hearing to add a little bit more data to that yield plan, which we did do. We have added frontages and total area, including upland area to each lot. So the board can look at that and see if it makes basically muster for a yield plan. So then you take your yield average plan to do an open space subdivision. You look at your road criteria, availability, where you can put your lots, and then what's left over. We have done that here. The proposal is an open space subdivision with a 2-lot conventional component. The light green areas here are shown, which would be the developed portion of the project. We have 15 off of a cul-de-sac road, dead-end cul-de-sac road there. The brown coloration would be proposed homes. We have 2 conventional lots with frontage on Malibu Road on the right side of the plan, all above 2 acres. The reasoning for this, just to explain, is in order to do a full cluster subdivision, we still have to abide by the road criteria geometry, right? There is a maximum length for your cul-de-sac in the town that says you cannot go more than 1,000 feet. That with the shape of the parcel, we could not actually put the yield of the parcel all into the open space conservation subdivision. So to still make it a viable project for Mr. Calzone, we then added the 2 conventional lots, which we are still at a total now of 17 when it yielded 18 conventional. But this is also a plus for Joe. It's a better constructed project, and it works out also for the town and provides an adequate amount of open space. That amount of open space actually here, I'm sorry, I believe it's 26 acres of open space, which includes the wetland, some forested, and some open space that's previously excavated. So the existing cul-de-sac is 1,000 feet to the throat, or 1,400 going all the way around the bulb. These lots obviously in town, would be on their own septic and well. There is no community systems. We have worked with Walker, and we have added a fire cistern for fire protection. That is actually would be part of the right of way as a standard in town. That would be on the lot line between 35-14 and 15, basically centralized in the cluster subdivision portion. For the snowmobile trail, this was brought up on multiple occasions. We've gotten calls. We had a site walk with planning board members, conservation members, some abutters. The existing snowmobile trail which I have actually used since I was a child myself. It's kind of a big importance. We do have some UTV and snowmobile dealers around town. The availability for that trail to continue is very warranted from a large amount of people. So Joe is doing his best to try and meet those needs, and we have proposed to relocate that trail. On the coloration in front of you, the red is existing. And then it basically went from where the red stops to the left through the gravel pit road, which more or less is the white road as you see in front of you. Now, obviously, the snowmobiles can't go down the proposed road, so we have proposed the black line leading to the red would be the relocated snowmobile trail. It was discussed at the site walk. Originally, we had it behind the lots. Of course, that's closer to the more sensitive areas being Malago Brook. And there was a comment made by one of the members also that unfortunately not everybody abides by the criteria that it's supposed to be a snowmobile trail used under frozen conditions. We all know sometimes maybe kids or whoever may use the trail in not frozen conditions. So putting out back did not really work because we did have some areas that went over some of the wetland fingers. So being that those may not be frozen, it didn't seem like a very good place to put the trail. So we have moved it over to the front. That would be in the 100-foot area buffer, roughly on top of the existing slope, top of the gravel.
It's right behind the house.
Excuse me, it is not open for public comment at this time. They're making their presentation.
So other than that, I'm working with the Snowmobile Club and some people that have warranted it during the site walk again. Conservation also looked at the land. There's some very nice land that would all be protected along Malago Brook. Currently, as part of this application, we are in communication with an engineer hired by the town. There is some significant drainage issues right now along Malago Road. And Joe has offered to try and help the town in that situation. So being a cluster subdivision, the open space shown in the dark green, the proposal is that the town could actually acquire that area. We have two locations of Joe would actually supply drainage stubs onto Malago Road. One would be through the 25-foot strip, which is owned in fee by the Guptals that goes up to Malago Road where the label is there. And then the other would be by drainage easement across from Lee Road. There would be a drainage easement along that 35-17. So working with the professional engineer that the town hired, that seems to be the best location that Joe would put in stubs or drain manholes. Those would go into the property to a very large detention basin that would acquire the drainage from the proposed subdivision as well as Malago Road. You'll see on the proposed profile plans, we have a very large detention pond already provided. We did that in planning for the town's drainage system. It's very well oversized. In fact, I think the 50-year storm, the pond only goes up, I think, a tenth or two. But knowing we will have a lot more water leading to it, we have it oversized. We are waiting for more specific data to come from the town's engineer. But we think we've got a pretty good head start on that as it is. And we've been working with the town road agent as well. Other than that, we have submitted a waiver request. There is one for this project. We did discuss that also at the site walk. As you can see, the road coming in, as you can imagine, being a excavated gravel pit, there are some very steep slopes along the perimeter of the pit. So we are in a situation where we have to basically go through that. So we have asked a waiver for the allowance to go from the town's 7% to 8%. You'll see in the profile plan, the actual distance of that waiver request is less than 100 feet, but it makes a big difference in the allowance of getting from Malago Road down to the gravel pit floor and reduces the amount of the hills that you would have prior to the curve there for the cul-de-sac. I would understanding plan to review engineer yet. So they will be looking at that as well. In regards to that, we are hoping that you find the application acceptable tonight. We believe plans couldn't go to the review engineer because there was not a current application accepted in front of the board. So that's our main goal this evening. To get them to go to the review engineer. If we can discuss the waiver and then answer any of the questions that the butters have. I think that pretty much covers it, and we'll answer any of your questions. Oh, and a second thought, excuse me. We do have review comments from planning. I believe from police, fire, the normal entities. We have a few comments here, which came to our attention. The way the regulations read, to do an open space subdivision, you have a perimeter of 100-foot buffer. In this case, as you can see, that due to the nature and the shape of the land, it's in the best interest to have two conventional lots by themselves and then the cluster subdivision. Will those become or adhere against the 100-foot buffer? So it's come to our attention that we need to go get a variance to allow those two to be in that area, which would be considered the 100-foot buffer. If we get the variance, then the buffer would be from those behind them. We will make that application. I believe I talked to Barbara, and the next deadline for that, I believe, is not till the 28th. So we have planned to make that and be present for the variance. So I just wanted to bring that to note that we are going forward in doing so. Thank you.
Board, or
I'm looking at the relocated snowmobile. All the houses on there. Any possibility of bringing this down between lot 16 and 17 to hook up to the current one?
The problem is, as you can see, that the trail comes from the west side of Malibu Road. So they would have to travel all the way down Malibu Road, which by state criteria, they're not really allowed to. They can only go 500 feet.
it would be a massive hazard to.
It would be large.
Yeah, you'd be putting a lot of people in peril.
Yeah. Now, there is the possibility, we were trying to keep the machines off Malibu Road, of course, as much as we could. There is going to be drainage and access to drainage for the town within the 25-foot strip, as you can see, the green strip that goes towards Malibu. That would be a shorter distance. So they could access the property there, then hit the trail, post location, and then go towards the red. We're trying to help everybody we can at the same time. We know there's gonna be pros and cons to both. Joe said he's certainly willing to relocate the trail. I think we've already done it twice, so it's very hard to try and make everyone happy, but we can still look at it.
Other items?
To me, when I look at this, I see two separate projects. I see the two lots as being separate from the conservation subdivision. So
I would agree with that, Ron. I had a discussion with John, and the thing that they're tying is they wouldn't let us take the two and subdivide them off because we are using the area within those two lots of our yield plan. They're saying the encompassed area of your yield plan needs to qualify for the open space subdivision. That's how they're tying it in. Originally, to be honest, in my mind, I thought the yield plan basically gave you your number, 18. How you broke that up, I didn't think really mattered as much. Like you could have two conventional, have the 15 and you'd be fine. But then they noted I forget the section, 6.26 perimeter says entire tract. So that's why we come back to, they're saying we need the variance.
I think you're not allowed to mix it to the bank.
It certainly would be much easier if we could just subdivide up the two lots and go from there. That was our hope, but
Well, I think if you do that, you lose those.
You can't do
lose
the
those
yield
two.
plan then. Yeah.
And to me, lot A, that's not, I don't think you can include that one as part of the yield plan either. You can't access that. The wetlands block the completion. So
I'm sorry.
lot A, which is kind of in the middle. Yeah, yeah. That's got wetlands in front of the buffer. There's no access to that lot. So for me, I don't think they could use it as a different part of the yield plan either.
Well, you only yield plan is,
Oh, the yield plan.
oh, I'm sorry. Lot 8U. Oh, I see what you're saying, because the wetlands is there.
Yeah, yeah, you have.
Yeah, but the basis of a yield thing, you could certainly get on allowance to do that, because we're not in the wetlands, it's just the buffer.
Yeah, you've got a waiver, so you can't include in your waiver plan without a waiver, we're not gonna give you a waiver. You know, because on a yield plan, we're not gonna give you a waiver, it's gotta be a buildable lot. By the regulations. You know, you're saying, well, I can get a waiver, and make it a buildable lot, but right now you haven't got a waiver, so it's not a buildable lot. So you can't access it, so you can't use it as part of your yield plan.
Okay, I can rearrange them if that's that big of an issue. I mean, we have one extra lot anyway, so it's kind of a moot.
Well, if you take out the two for this, separate the two, I don't think you do.
Well, we can't do that anyway. So we get rid of that lot, now we're 17 to 17.
Well, I think if you take it, if you go your two conventional lots, you lose those two, because you, part of your yield plan includes those spaces as well, right? So you lose those two.
But I don't understand why we would lose them.
I think you got two separate projects here. You got a subdivision, you got a conservation subdivision, and then you got two conventional lots which are gonna be subdivided off. Now you can include those, in the same project.
But they're saying as long as we go get a variance, it doesn't seem to be an issue.
I think it is an issue.
I mean, I don't think it says anywhere where you can't have two different designs on the parent parcel.
Somewhere it says you can't mix the two.
If you wrote, based on your yield plan, the yield plan as is, like that's, you've got 17 units in there.
Correct.
How close would you be if you excluded the two and built your yield plan just on the rest of the parcel?
Still make it.
You're still at 15.
Right. I mean, that's kind of what I get to is it's.
Right.
I mean, are we splitting hairs over something that?
The end result's the same.
Right.
I just say, no, I know the yield plan to me is not.
You already said he was going for the waiver, right?
Right.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
That's what I'm
there.
saying, we just, a variance of it,
Is it fair, so what?
the two front lots.
Okay.
This entire project is, we saw it as, well, he's submitting it as one project. The conservation subdivision, so they have to follow all the regulations for it.
And
They have that buffer, so they're going to the ZBA to ask for relief from that because of the nature of the design of their lots.
you weren't at the hearing. We proposed we should do a conventional subdivision. Conservation Commission doesn't want it. The board doesn't want it. So we are going forward with the cluster.
Okay. I think I'm trying to remember, it seems to me some of the language said you can't go with conventional and clustered in the same project, right?
I'd have to find that out for you, for sure.
Yeah, after the comment was raised, I scoured and I couldn't find it.
Yeah, I know that we had discussed it before, if it was an issue.
Yeah, meeting house was done.
Yep. And it's all one project.
Yeah, the 6.2.3 parentheses 2. A mixing of housing alternatives defined in subsection 6.2.3 parentheses 1 shall not be permitted in a conservation subdivision.
That has to do with detached and attached, I believe.
Individual home lots and cluster.
within a cluster.
Yeah, so you're doing an individual,
We're doing all single families.
so that can be included in the subdivision. What you got.
Well, I would think they're all the same if they're all single family detached. You wouldn't
You're
have,
doing cluster, so you can't do individual lots or clusters. Same project. So the mixing of all the alternatives shall not be permitted in a conservation subdivision.
yeah, it's,
They were all single family houses.
yeah, that's the way we read it.
Not doing different types of.
Because you could have clusters without lot lines, and then you can have lots with lot lines. You can have detached homes or attached homes. These are all single family detached houses.
I'm not seeing anything that would tell me it's not meeting the conservation subdivision guideline.
I was thinking 6.2.3.
We did try to do our homework. We had some preliminary meetings with the board and planning and zoning, and that never came up.
There'd be all individual houses.
You old timers remember the meeting house
Yep.
projects and some of this swing that. Been playing across the street. Mission subdivision across the street on one project. The Aspen Road waiver was EPA.
There were two separate parcels. The other side of the street was separate from there, what would be the south side of it was a separate parcel, and that was all done conventional, and the other side was the conservation subdivision.
So it wasn't all one project?
No, no, they were split into two.
So Scott, your position is all these are individual house lots with attached single family, whether they're conventional or not. That's what you're saying, right?
Yes, sir.
And we were approached for the snowmobile trail. That wasn't something that we're doing because we want to do it for this cluster. We're doing it because people in the town said they want it.
Yeah, but you're required to do that stuff, so with the conservation subdivision. Existing trails and stuff have to be, that's a requirement under the ordinance.
I don't agree with you. They don't hold. He never granted them an easement to do those trails. It's not a record, it's not recorded, and it's not binding. Because if that was the case, you couldn't use your land.
It's permitted by the landowner. It's not a right of use.
We're not trying to fight it anyway. We're trying to.
I mean, I appreciate the fact that you folks listened to the feedback that was given and the concerns people had around it and tried to adapt the site plan to accommodate everybody that could potentially be impacted by this. The only gripe I had on it was I didn't see a parking area to be able to park and go in and use the Malibu River.
If you look close.
Actually, if you look at those comments, after you look on the
I
top.
know, I was like, I couldn't find it.
CP one.
No, I asked that before. You didn't say it.
Yes, probably should be one. Sheet 15. The very top.
Where are they numbered before?
I know you guys were talking about it.
Where is it on 15?
Very top of the page.
Provided an additional gravel space for open space access. Yep. Okay.
In the mailbox.
Of course, that's when you strike and gravel, so.
Yep.
As you remember, there was probably, 4 or 5 existing now, so we would add probably 4 or 5 more.
Would the access still come off Malago, or are you proposing coming in off the new road to be named at some point?
No, it's because it's existing, it's a very good location, we're just gonna keep it where it was, like, though.
I just wasn't sure because of, like, now you're gonna have a turnout lane, and you're gonna be turning right there onto it and have an access right there on it if it was.
Yeah, we didn't see it as an issue, I think the amount, time somebody will be coming up there, and it's so close, you can certainly see a vehicle sitting there waiting if need be, so.
Yeah.
Could you describe where that is on the map, please?
Yep, so the.
Right where the existing entrance already is, where folks already park, which would be.
Oh, right, you can see the cursor right in here, basically the existing gravel pit road.
Oh, it's right in.
Yeah, right to the right of that.
And again, I'll
So
ask the,
parking to walk in.
excuse me, I'll ask the audience to please hold comment. You're more than welcome to ask all those clarifying questions. I invite you to ask them, and just please wait until we get through that and open up public comment.
Thank you, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, you're using 17 acres and leaving 24.
26.
26 undeveloped. So I don't see how you put in the old plan. And your uplands is. So.
If uplands is not required, it's supposed to be developed. It's really the requirement. He's suggesting that upland is 80% of the open space, but that's not the requirement. It's really developable. It's gotta be something that can be developed. You know, just taking out the wetlands and the buffers and stuff, there's no way you get 8%. I'm gonna say you get 50%. No way you get 80%.
Uplands is 80% of the open space.
Yeah, but the requirement for open space, you gotta have 50% that's buildable. It's gotta be,
The definition is you gotta remove the wetlands, steep slopes, and the rest is.
Yeah, well, steep slopes, stuff like that. So to me, you got some pretty good, to me, wetlands and buffers can't build on them.
Correct.
And you got some, you got some lines here that, to me, say that's not all buildable.
I agree with that stuff. They give you a formula, how you calculate it, and that's how you calculate it. It's math.
I'm just saying, Joe, if I look at, this is the wetlands buffer, that's a that wetland with a buffer. And that's the open space, you look at 80% of that. There's no way.
I'm going to defer to my engineer, who's an engineer, to do the calculation.
I'm not saying you get 50%, but
Yeah, we're
just saying,
way over 50%.
no, over 80%.
Yes, the minimum required upland area within the open space is 12.9 acres. We have 21.1.
Yeah, I'm saying. I'm saying number 12. They meet the requirement.
So we're arguing over the price of tea in China.
So he has the 12 acres.
Right.
Get the 12.
What else we got?
When you accept this complete, what's the next step?
Yes, accept the application is complete, then address the waiver request. Then open public comment.
Is that a motion?
No, but I will motion to accept application 239-35-B-22-17 sub as complete.
I'll second that.
That'd be a little.
Yep, you're
That line. Right. Now that we got that out of the way. We have a waiver request for.
So I apologize, it's not in the staff report because I initially didn't see it, even though I know that we discussed it, but it should be in your packet. And if you need me to, I can read it. Like. Oops. Oh, my papers everywhere. Barbara told me it was in your packet. If not, I can go make copies because I made a copy for myself because I didn't see it.
I do not have a copy.
Okay.
Is there an access?
She said it was
Here you go.
online. So- Okay, I'll be right back.
We have the waiver request in front of you.
I have it on this USB drive.
Okay, so I just wasn't sure if you had it there. If you want
Oh,
to
yeah.
read it.
Yeah, on the
Where?
project application,
Oh,
second page.
but that,
Oh,
yeah. I will leave right on past it as I move my packet. Provisional waiver request.
There's no wetland impact on the entire site. Correct. That's great. So in short, we're asking for a road geometry waiver. The town's regulation is 7% for a local road. We are asking for 8%. As you can see on the attached profile plan, we have basically a gravel face that was left in the gravel pit that we need to kind of go through to access the lower end of the gravel pit. We actually tell about this during the site walk. So you can see down on the actual profile part, between the vertical curves, the length of the 8% is actually less than 100 feet. So it's actually a very minor request. But it does aid in the amount of cut and fill on both ends. So it's more of a balanced roadway with the waiver applied. That's why we're requesting.
No,
for the
Scott,
8%.
is it flattening out to get to Malago Road?
Excuse me?
I see the topo lines here, so does the road flatten out before you hit Malago Road?
Yes. Yep, well, we have a 2% within 150 feet by regulations. Yeah, so we have a good plateau before we actually start going down.
Right, it actually drops, you're cutting down into the existing hill, bringing that down. And then coming in and then we have the transition.
Yeah. Didn't want to stay right by the. And it's long.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're good distance back in. Right, so we have a waiver request from 12.2.1 from the road design standards. Not granting the waiver would not would pose an unnecessary hardship and not comply, excuse me, with the spirit and the requirement for the landscaping, the screening in Article 3, Section, no, that's not the right.
No, don't read that part.
I'm
Read.
like, yeah, that's not the right one.
No, just read this part.
Oh, yeah, yeah, not granting the waiver would pose an unnecessary hardship to the applicant. Granting the waiver would not be contrary to the spirit and intent of the regulations. Explanation that it actually creates less of an impact by granting this waiver. So I'll make a motion to grant that waiver. Pick one, I don't care which one.
Can't be all.
That's who you are.
Nap aye. Any other items? Yes, before I open it the public.
They're gonna have a waiver plan back to the 100 foot.
The variance.
Gonna go to the ZBA.
It's gonna go to the ZBA.
Okay, so this time I'll open public comment. Please come up to the podium, state your name. What you would like to address.
Yes, could you put that back up? Michael Ross, 227 Malibu, and I live. I can't see it now. But,
Yes, to go right away.
yes,
Sorry, this is no sense.
there we go. I live right here. So you're proposing to put the snowmobile right behind my house,
On the top of the hill.
on the top of the hill? And you're gonna cut down all those trees to make it go through the,
Not just that, but it's gonna be 100 feet from our back door.
back,
Top of
the
the
house is right there.
I need to propose a snowmobile trail. The town.
Well, put it halfway down the hill.
Can you put it down below the hill? That's where it has been. And you're gonna, this is our lot too, and it stops, you're gonna put what there?
Underground drainage tank. Not, but it's underground. We're doing that for the town.
Okay, I understand, that'll help my house out, and then you're gonna cut down all those trees there too, right?
No, it's 10 feet wide. I don't know exactly the price.
It's good, trees there, but that's
Yeah.
that's fine, but the snowmobile track, it's loud as it is when it's in the pit. It's gonna be right behind my house, and I have grandkids that live with us, it's right on top of it. And there's not a lot of room, you're gonna have to cut a lot of trees down for a thing to go through there. And then it cuts in and you're gonna lose a lot of I think because it sloops around. It's quite the drop there.
Is it okay to respond, Mr. Chairman? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So one of the reasons is, I don't know if you're on the sidewalk or not, but so where this area is, the 100-foot buffer. And there was a lot of concern that we try to leave most of the existing trees as we can. So we were trying to put it on a flat area, which unfortunately is at the top. So the club can come in and selectively cut where the trail would go. If we put it anywhere on the slope, what happens is, they can't ride like this, so they have to ride on a flat area. So they would have to bench it, which actually you would need a swath twice as wide as you would on a flat section. So that's why we tried to put it there as much as we could. We understand that this home is right there, but it was either that or the wetlands, and obviously the wetlands are kind of a sacred area as well. So we're trying to do the best we can to make everybody happy, but it's got to go somewhere.
There used to be a trail out behind there that went around, but when they built Fox Run, the people there cut trees and dropped all the trees out so you couldn't go out there anymore. I don't know if that's usable again, if they could get permission to do that again.
It was on the other side.
It was on the other side of where you guys are, up on the other side.
Yeah, we've been coordinating with Josh St. Hilaire, who is part of the Trail Master Committee, and from what we understand, that's no longer an option.
I don't want it on the top of the hill.
Yeah, that's
We need to take into consideration of the people that have been there the longest.
a lot of people. Yeah, you're gonna get going right behind their houses. That's true. And those guys, it's loud enough when it's low. It's really loud when they go in there at the bottom, and they're gonna be right behind the houses. You're gonna get worse.
At midnight, you want people, 100 feet from your house on a snowmobile?
Ma'am, if you could, you have to come up to the mic, state your name and.
Melanie Ross, I live at 227
I
Avenue.
understand, but the requirement of our process is that you have to do it.
That's being recorded, so.
Yeah.
Would you want snowmobiles in your backyard at midnight, 1 o'clock?
I'll be
They're out
candid.
there all hours of the night.
Ma'am, I understand, I'll be candid, I don't live directly across from the snowmobile trail access on Swains, and I have a commercial property, the Adirondacks, and it runs directly through my yard there. But I'm also a person who believes in the ability to snowmobile, so I'm accepting of that.
I don't have a snowmobile. Can't afford one. Go ahead, Don.
Don Millette, I live at 221 Malibu Road, and you're right, there is no requirement in the state of New Hampshire that snowmobile trails be put in, it's up to the landowner. And he doesn't have to do a thing with it. And I disagree with them coming up that bank. Now, part of that snowmobile trail would go to Cozy's. They would go out across those two bigger lots, come across and go down Lee Road. And I don't think they should be going up on top of that bank.
Can you just show me where this?
Right next, they would come out right here, go down Lee Road.
No, where is your house?
Mine's right here.
Do you know your shed is on my property?
That's gonna be taken care of.
Okay.
That's a temporary building and Paul Gupel told me I could put that there.
Well, I checked.
So until you owned it,
I checked.
that will be taken care of this week.
I checked with Paul. He told me he's given no information to put.
He hasn't said one way or the other.
Okay. Well, I'm just saying what he said to me.
It'll be moved. But the trail shouldn't be in the back of that property. No. I don't know where you're gonna put it, but it should be there. That's not a recreational piece of land.
I can speak to the Lee Road connection. I was a little confused the last meeting. I did get that clarified from Josh. There is another portion that goes from the red out to where the Lee Road intersection is. That is actually a stub trail that does not go anywhere other than Cozy's and Toys are, with the toys. He actually has a groomer and he grooms for the club. But that trail does not go anywhere other than to the trail. So that's really not part of the main corridor.
Right.
The issue we're facing is the main corridor goes from the very left of the site to the right rear of the site, so literally existing through the middle. And that's what we're trying to fix. So the other one, Josh said that's a minor issue, and if it goes away, it goes away. But the main corridor is highly important to them.
Other public comment questions?
Before we let those go.
Oh, sorry, I'm just.
Seems like moving it down the slope as suggested kind of flattens out on the property lines of the properties like 15, 13, and all that kind of stuff. You're saying that's a problem. It doesn't seem to be that big of a problem. Am I missing something?
If you run it right along the back of the new lodge.
Yeah, that seems to flatten out right there, Scott.
We can certainly evaluate that.
Scour out some of the slope as it approaches the setback for the new lots, 15, 14, 13, and 12. That works, but. So.
Is the consensus of the board still that we try to keep the trail, snowmobile trail?
Well, one of the goals of a subdivision is to permit active and passive recreational use of open space by residents and the general public.
Correct.
So I think that's one of the objectives of the subdivision, conservation subdivision. I think that means we want to try to keep that.
Sure. Is there more public comment?
Yeah, Linnea Morley, 286 Malaga Road. I'm actually across the street from that house right there. Someone made a comment earlier about them not going on Malaga Road, and they come out right across from my driveway. Oftentimes they'll turn around my driveway, go back in, I don't care, except when it's midnight. But they do ride up and down Malaga Road, so I don't know how big a concern that is. And I do understand the noise concern because they do run all night. My bigger concern is more the construction issues and vibrations and stuff. I already have a cracked foundation in my house. And it was 15 grand to fix. So.
There's no construction within 500 feet of the construction of the roadway.
My house is like 30 feet from the street.
From Malaga.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm saying the new roadway.
Yeah, but there's two houses across the street from my house.
Yeah, those are just gonna be foundations. There's no road.
All right, I'm concerned about that and in general, the wildlife, which I know you're trying, but the deer come in and out of there all day, every day. So just concerned in general.
Which is the benefit of the conservation subdivision is it keeps the forestation in there for the deer and
Which, yeah, I do like this plan way better than the straight through road, but. I'm just-
Or a shopping center could go in there.
True. Very true. And I do understand it's your land, you can do what you want with it, but
So.
I just.
I do love that shot.
Well, it's true though.
Are there any other public comments?
Is there anybody online that would make public comment? I see some people online, but I don't know if you're here for this one or not. If you are, if you could raise your hand. No one's raising their hand
Yeah.
online. There's several people on there, but okay.
All right, this time I'll close public comment. So I think we're at the point where we'd be looking for a motion to approve it. And read the,
What can we prove without the ZBA?
No.
well, that's what I was gonna say, it would have to be conditional upon a ZBA decision.
You also
Is that what
need,
you're looking for?
no, he also needs CMA review. The town engineer needs to review the plan set. So we can't, town staff does not have the authority to do that. It's a planning board action to have
CMA review,
mhm,
yeah.
for site plan and, no, because they came in for design before. We closed out design. Now they're coming in for their formal application. And this is where like CMA would do, the town engineer would do their review.
Okay, I'm sorry, that was
That's okay.
not interpreted.
So after this hearing, you're gonna let them know that
Mhm,
they can review it for the next hearing?
mhm.
Fine, Jay.
Yeah, I'll probably, well, I will email you, Scott, if you have an electronic copy, they prefer electronic copies if you have it. If it's too large, I can probably mail it, but
We already did that.
But now we continue it?
We.
Actually, that's why I sent the original to you.
Yeah, I know.
So right now, we're waiting for.
You're voting
Find out if we need to know if the variance is gonna go through.
through.
So we would need the variant to we didn't know if the variance is granted by the ZBA or not granted. And then
Maybe looking at moving the snowmobile trails.
well, that's a negotiation piece with the landowner. Where they would like to put it is what I'm assuming, as well as some conversation with the trail guys, because they obviously don't want to put people in peril on the edge of a steep slope and still make sure we protect everything that needs to be protected as best we can. This is a delicate balance. So we continue.
Well, you have to motion if you want CMA to review the plans and what they're doing
I'll make a motion that I would like CMA to review.
for site review, regulations and the drainage.
Second.
Yes,
He'll be on one.
Just be right.
Yeah, right.
now by.
Wait, who seconded it? I'm sorry.
It was seconded by Rob.
And you
Motion
first,
by me.
I need Barbara.
And now we'd be looking at a motion to continue until, do you have a requested date?
The next hearing in January.
The January 3rd,
So motion to.
to give them ample time for them to review, hopefully.
Motion to make a request for continuance or to request continuance to January 3rd at 6:30 P M.
The ZBA hearings, I believe is the.
I was just gonna say that, the ZBA hearing is after that.
Oh,
I mean, you can, if you would like to come back the
I don't wanna
3rd, you
waste your
can.
time, But
yeah, you want to go to the.
You don't want
But-
Yeah, to come in and request it.
Right.
I love coming here, what do you mean?
Or you could see where you're at, but I mean, ZBA, you
If-
wouldn't have
If
ZBA.
ZBA is on the 18th,
Mhm.
we have a meeting, or you said the 3rd, it's the 3rd and the 17th, so it would have to be February.
The first
7th.
The first Tuesday in February.
Yeah, the 7th of February.
It's my hopes we get review comments back, I can address them, and we'll have a clean slate ready to go for that meeting.
And moving the snowmobile slope, this trail down the slope, was something that I think we have to look at.
We'll use with that, yes.
Sorry.
Will you give comment to the ZBA about you like this plan better than a group plan?
We don't talk, we don't talk it.
Well, I mean, the ZBA.
they're not supposed to influence one another.
They're gonna ask us if we came to the planning board.
And,
Yeah.
I will be there and I'll tell them, yes, you did, you know, so. And it's your application.
I mean, you're going before them on the 18th, you'll have meeting minutes you can take in and say, look,
Yeah.
here's the feedback from the planning board.
Mhm. So February,
February.
did you guys make motion? Sorry, got you in mid motion.
All right, making a motion, 7th, making a motion to continue, application 239-35-V-22-17 sub to February 7th at 6:30 PM.
Let's go on.
Happy alone.
That's all right. Yeah.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for your patience, everyone that's here. I know it's a long evening. We do appreciate it. And the last
22-27-22.1-TR-22-9.6.
Baby doing.
Mr. Chris,
I want to make a motion to end the meeting and put this off.
Put it on for next.
Hey, you guys didn't put that in your rules of procedure, so those haven't been approved yet, so.
No.
It's just being silly.
So
This is why you guys should stop at 10. You get punchy after 10.
I'm long past punchy in this. I was punchy at 8. Took a lot to figure out what was going on here. The floor is yours.
My name's Jim Griffin. I'm the owner of the lot on Stagecoach Road. It's 227-22-1. Basically, I'm here for a driveway, special permit, which does land requirement. Only the driveway, none of my structures are on that, I'm encroached on the wetlands at all. I don't know if you guys have comments. I just have it in a special permit so I can get my building permits to start constructing. It was initially more wetlands, but it was, that area was less than 3,000 square feet. So that was, we pulled that out of there. So now the impact, it was like 6,500, now it's only 3,600 square feet. Again, it's just a driveway, and the reason it's even more, it's, I believe, 3,600 and 3,619 is because that's going to allow me to put up some additional buffer around the driveway, loam and seed, so to prevent any erosion down the road.
Now, one thing I didn't fully understand, but I did have a question. Is that drain toward the back and then off to the side towards Parker Mountain Road? Because I know that all runs.
Yeah, it does, and that's why these wetlands that were from the soil scientist and the engineer, they're the ones that, delineated where they are, keeping you away.
No, sorry.
It's been a long day. So we're not in those wetlands, obviously, except for just the buffer for the driveway. We did put a culvert in at the end of the driveway.
And you weren't able to come up off 126?
No, we came up off of there, there's two reasons. There's, was ledge coming up through, and I'd have to cross over the wetlands to get to the property. And this way we're avoiding going into the wetlands. And it's safer. I just went in front of the zoning boards. They actually thanked me for moving it from 126 over to Stagecoach and everything. I know you don't communicate with them, so that's why I thought.
Pay attention.
And I see that you're optimistic about tonight. You paved some of your apron this past week.
Yes, yeah, I did. That was a question I had, but I mean, I did it. Because I know a lot of places, you have to get it before you get your occupancy permit. He wanted it before the permit, so I gave it to him, so I get my permit. Right thing to do.
Questions from the board?
The Stagecoach Road, there's like a poorly drained wetlands right there at the corner of your property, I guess.
Yeah, that's the one that's under 3,000 square feet.
Also, you don't have to worry, so
No, that's what you said.
Yeah, that's the one I was mentioned that I brought up that, that's not considered encroachment because it's less than 2,000 square feet.
wetland, less than 2,000 square feet. Yeah.
It's actually 1,900.
Well, good and bad. I guess my question is then, why wouldn't you move the driveway to the east, closer to that wetlands, and then come on the property lower and avoid the wetlands, the jurisdictional wetlands?
I don't own that land, that entrance. I got a variance and easement to come in off of there.
But if you go to the east on the, you show the driveway easement, and I'm assuming the dotted line is the driveway itself.
That's correct.
So if you move it all the way to the east of the, where you have it now, from one side to the other, you could come in lower.
Or on the property line, you mean, if he goes up?
It might be pretty close to that.
I mean, I'm probably in this, my driveway's gonna be in the center of this. I mean, this drawing probably has a little bit. I'm just skip it. One some page.
See how it's all the way ahead of the west?
Yes,
I mean, if you bring it in on the east, and then go like here.
yeah, that's all, yeah, it's 30 feet, so I mean, it's in the middle here. And then when it comes in here, yeah, I mean, that is exactly where it is, but.
Yeah.
You're talking.
Move it all the way to the east. And
I can do that, yeah.
That'll minimize the impact. You have to minimize the impact.
Well, I mean, I thought we did center it, so we did minimize it. That was our
I
intention.
think if you bring it more east and then go lower, it'll minimize the impact.
That's easily done. Definitely good.
What you're saying is
I mean, put the gravel.
here and then trying to
Yes.
skirt around the edge of that.
Yes. I think that would reduce the impacts. You see what I'm saying?
You want to take the curve?
I want to lower the driveway.
Yeah.
I want to go in
Here.
here.
I have the gravel, and put it, take it.
Now, the site
Can you
can
just do a driveway?
This- I don't know if you guys have driven out there, but this site is very like,
that's what I was gonna say.
yeah, it's,
I didn't understand.
Where Ron wants you to put the driveway lower, are there site conditions that?
Well, it's
make
gonna
that
get,
possible?
that's gonna put me closer to that smaller wetlands. So I mean, you really.
That's not jurisdictional wetland, so there's no requirement to.
No, exactly. But I mean, it's not gonna affect, it's only a couple of feet moving it. I mean, it's minimal. So, I mean, I have no problem looking at it.
It may just minimize your encroachment in the jurisdictional wetlands.
Yeah.
Which is what you have to do to get a 9.6.
Yeah, I understand. That's why we actually tried doing my surveyor. And we told me to tell you that, we're trying to minimize, have that in that data.
I mean, you're gonna need to be a contortionist to get down this driveway if you try and go anymore.
I think it's, to me, moving it that way to the extent feasible. That's all I think we need to, but I would.
I mean, he can't go as far as you're saying, because he doesn't have the.
Yeah.
No, the easement's right here, he's got, he can go all the way with the set that easement right there.
Yeah, on that side, but you show him cutting off his easement.
No, this is his property right here, so he's going along the easement, then going right here instead of going right there. That's his property line right there, right?
Yeah,
So
Yeah.
Go.
yeah, right to that sharp,
Instead of going here.
right to the edge of the easement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not to the edge of the easement and then,
Get it back down.
southeast is probably possible.
Well, right here is as far as you can go.
Yeah, but you could go here instead of, he's going up here, see, I'm saying go down there.
It's true to the right place.
Sorry.
Like this.
Yeah.
But is that area isn't impacting the wetlands anyhow. Like, oh, I see, it's cut, yeah. You think about it, that's fine. Yeah, I think that's, I haven't even put everything down yet anyway, so.
More better.
I think it's a challenging site to.
Yeah, that site is very,
Yeah.
no offense. I mean, to make the driveway work, like,
And the road is that it's still not right how it comes out of that stage.
right, I mean, I don't know if there's any other options, really.
Prepare for takeoff.
No, it's gonna be, it's smooth and, it's flat when you get up to the top, then it goes down some. So I can build that up, after with that apron is easy. Because obviously, my first thought, my first consideration is always safety.
Yeah.
If there's anybody, that's first thing. Family first, then safety. If somebody, you get help from your family, you leave. More important than any job.
Yep.
Read safety next. Bottom line.
What are we doing? We approving the motion, accepting it?
Do you want him to read the criteria in the record? Or not the
Well,
criteria,
assuming
the things?
we should accept the application as complete first.
Well, his only application is for the permit. Permit.
Yeah,
Special permit.
Yeah, special permit.
yeah, okay, yeah. I mean,
Make the motion to accept the application as complete.
Second.
Yeah, the other one.
Yeah.
and then we have a request for a waiver. No, sorry, we have a.
You need to go see. I think he's, poor buddy, sorry.
Want him to answer the question? Good answer to these questions.
I think, you may already have.
Yeah.
And then, there's another one, there's a. You can borrow mine if not.
Yeah, that one's in.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
this, I have it right here.
Okay.
Describe in detail all existing uses and structures, doesn't exist. That's NA. And then describe in detail all purpose, uses, structures, construction and modifications requiring a special permit. Driveway special permit is necessary since current wetland requirements cannot be met. Purpose, the proposed use is in keeping with the intent and purposes set forth in the zoning ordinance as permitted in the base zoning bid. If the base zoning district requires a conditional use permit or special exception for the proposed use, one must already have and obtain, or if the proposed use is not listed on the table or uses, or is listed but not permitted, one must already have obtained a variance. Single-family home is allowed in this zone. After a review of all reasonable alternatives, it is determined to be infeasible to place the proposed structure or use outside of the buffer zone. The current buffer zones do not allow me to meet the requirements. It makes the land inaccessible. See access on this one. The proposed structure or use must be set back as far as possible from the delineated edge of the wetland or surface water. The new proposed driveway is being placed in the best possible location to stay as far away from the wetlands as possible. Then any disturbance to the appropriate erosion control measures must be in place prior to and during construction. We'll put up some silt fence around the wetland areas and and along the adjacent driveways. I mean, adjacent to the driveway and wetlands. Any disturbance to the surrounding buffer zone must be repaired or restored upon completion of the construction. The sloped areas on both sides of the driveway are going to be built up with loam and then seeded to, again, to prevent erosion, future erosion. And then the last one doesn't, isn't acceptable.
Open for public comment?
There is
Hearing-
nobody online.
Hearing none, I'll close public comment.
I make a motion that we approve the 0.6 compression buffer with the suggested changes that we talked about that are reasonably feasible for application 227-22.1-GR-22-9.6.
Wait, what, if he's changing his site plan, he's gonna have to come back.
No, it's not.
I guess I missed that part.
Just talking about moving the driveway
I
out
live
a
by
little
that
bit farther
street.
out of.
Okay, not changing the design. Sorry, you
No.
caught me off guard there. I was like, wait a minute. Okay, sorry.
Within the designated driveway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I thought I got it. I was like, wait a minute.
Best of luck to you.
Mm.
Yes, actually.
Yeah.
Motion to adjourn as well. Don't forget. He's like leaving. You're leaving. You have to wait until we motion to adjourn. Oh. No.
Hearing none, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Take care.
Robert,
Happy otherwise.
that thing. That one.